At the end of the Ice Age, I accumulated tens of billions of supplies. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 826 Masanami Yamada. Zhang Yi smiled. He would not eat the pre-made dishes here. It's not that he's picky, it's just that there are so many delicacies in his space that there is no need to eat such things. Even the rich aroma of the food is due to the amount of technology and hard work that went into it. Zhang Yi wanted to leave, but when he saw Liu Zhengnan's flattering face, he didn't know why he always felt familiar. He didn't think much about it at first, but his eyes inadvertently caught a glimpse of the large pile of prepared dishes in the basket. In an instant, some memories emerged in Zhang Yi's mind. He smiled and asked, "What's your name?" Liu Zhengnan was stunned for a moment, wondering why Zhang Yi asked him the name of this little person on the ship. "My name is Liu Zhengnan, and I'm a cook." Zhang Yi frowned slightly. "Liu Zhengnan? Where was your hometown before? I see that you are quite skilled in cooking. What kind of cuisine are you good at?" When asked about this topic, Liu Zhengnan suddenly hesitated. After a few seconds, he replied, "My hometown is in that east of Guangdong, and I can cook some Cantonese cuisine." Then say a few words in Cantonese, and let's hear it. Liu Zhengnan swallowed, and sweat broke out on his forehead. "Steel pot," shouting with tears to repair the ladle pot. The smile slowly widened at the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth, but the smile was very cold, as if he was looking at a prey in a playful manner. "You don't seem to be from eastern Guangdong. No, I should say you don't seem to be from Huaxu." At this time, the 4 surrounding crew members also realized that something was wrong. "Captain, is there any problem with this person's identity?" Zi Changmeng quickly walked over and kicked Liu Zhengnan to the ground. "MD, old man, who are you? How dare you pretend to be Chinese?" Liu Zhengnan injured the pain in his stomach and denied it. "I'm indeed of Chinese descent, but I have been away from my hometown for too long, and my hometown dialect is not very good." Zhang Yi stared at him, squinted his eyes and said, "But your Mandarin is very good." Liu Zhengnan still wanted to explain something. Zhang Yi interrupted him coldly, "Don't pretend to be like me, President Yamada." At this time, Zhang Yi had completely remembered who the person in front of him was. President of Neon Yamada Co. Limited, Masami Yamada. Yamada Co. Limited originally had a branch in Xianhai City, and their warehouse was not far from where Zhang Yi worked. Neon people, some companies have the habit of printing the president's face on products or transportation vehicles. That's why Zhang Yi felt that Yamada Masana looked familiar. When several crew members around heard this, their eyes suddenly filled with anger. "Neon man, you fucking dare to pretend to be a member of the Huaxu Kingdom, you damn thing." Several people rushed forward, punching and kicking Yamada Masana without mercy and hitting hard places. Yamada Masanami screamed in pain. "Don't fight, don't fight. I'm a spiritual Huaxu countryman. My great-grandfather is from eastern Guangdong, and I have Huaxu country blood." But these words were only met with a sneer from Zhang Yi and an angry scolding from the crew. "Bitch, you're still a bastard, so you deserve to die even more." The hostility of people in the Jiangnan region towards the Neon people is at an unprecedented high. Because not long ago, the Ronin landed, and massacres occurred in 7 or 8 cities south of the Yangtze River. The number of direct and indirect deaths reached tens of thousands. In today's Jiangnan region, everyone is gnashing their teeth when mentioning the word Neon. Zhang Yi sat on the chair and closed his eyes quietly, enjoying the wailing sound of Yamada Zhengnan. He thought the sound was wonderful. Although he killed Eclipse in the first place, just killing a dozen members of Eclipse didn't make him feel happy. Why can they go to the land of Jiangnan and kill so many people of Huaxu Kingdom, but Zhang Yi and others can only kill a dozen culprits? This matter is not fair, and it cannot end so easily. Now that the old boy Yamada Masanami appears on his ship, the result is naturally conceivable. Among the 4 crew members, Zi Changming was beaten the hardest. Because he selected the person, he must show his attitude, otherwise Zhang Yi may be dissatisfied with him. Yamada Masami was still quibbling at first, claiming that he was not an Eon person, but soon 8 of his teeth were knocked out, and he was in so much pain that he could not speak. There was blood on the floor, and Yamada Masami could only breathe. Zi Changming picked up a boning knife from the chopping board and was about to kill him. Zhang Yi stopped him. "What do you want to do?" Zi Changming was stunned for a moment and then said angrily, "Of course I'll kill him to death. What's the point of keeping such a piece of shit?" Zhang Yi looked at the knife in his hand. "That's for cooking, not for killing pigs." A look of hope flashed in Yamada Masanori's eyes, and he looked at Zhang Yi pleadingly. Zhang Yi smiled cruelly. "Besides, wouldn't it be too easy for him to die like this?" Yamada Masana's body trembled violently. He didn't know what Zhang Yi was going to do to him. Although I'm an Eon citizen, I have never harmed any Huaxu people," Yamada Masanami shouted with tears in his eyes. Zhang Yi turned a deaf ear and looked out the window, looking at the vast sea of ice and the biting wind. "Throw it down and feed it to the sharks. At this temperature, it will freeze into ice within a few seconds if thrown into the sea. It is also clean and hygienic, so it is a great choice." After receiving Zhang Yi's instructions, several crew members immediately picked up Yamada Masana like a dead pig and dragged him to the deck. But as soon as they went out, they saw Sunuanxi coming with Zhu Yunk and blocking their way. Zhu Yunk's pupils narrowed when he saw the miserable state of Yamada Masana. "What are you doing? Why do you treat an innocent person like this?" And Sunuanxi cried and shouted, "Teacher Yamada." Then he threw himself in front of Yamada Masanami and cried heartbrokenly. Zi Changming was helpless. "Miss Zhu, this guy's an Eon man. The captain asked us to throw him into the sea to feed the sharks." Zhu Yunk's face was cold, and his eyes were burning with anger. "This is simply what the devil does." Zhang Yi walked out of the kitchen, and when he saw Zhu Yunk and Sunuanxi, he realized that Yamada Zengnan's pig-killing screams just now were too loud, attracting other people. However, he didn't care. Zhang Yi's careless look annoyed Zhu Yunk and Sunuanxi. Sunuanxi cried and pointed at Zhang Yi and angrily shouted, "Zhang, you are too cruel. Teacher Yamada has been helping us cook, and he helped us prepare food on Yanliu Island. And he is like my father, caring for me in every possible way. How could you be so cruel to him without asking any questions? You are simply not a human being, you are a beast." Chapter 827. You don't understand the cruelty of the last days. Sunuanxi was furious. She couldn't tolerate Zhang Yi treating someone she admired like this. Zhang Yi glanced at her. Palm mouth. He has no unnecessary nonsense with this kind of woman. After receiving the order, a crew member immediately walked over and slapped Sunuanxi hard on the face. The direct hit made half of her delicate little face bulge, and several teeth fell out. Zhu Yunk's expression changed, and he raised his voice and said, "Mr. Zhang, you have gone too far." She stared at Zhang Yi, clenched her fists, and took a deep breath. "I can understand your feelings. Even if he is an Eon man, you shouldn't treat him like this. Every wrongdoer has his own fault, and every debtor has his own owner. Not every Neon person is a bad person. What's the difference between what you do and those ruthless Ronin?" The commotion here was so loud that it quickly attracted other people on the ship. Among them are the Rockflow group in the middle level and the Huaxu Chinese and expatriates in the lower cabin. They didn't know what happened, but they saw Yamada Masanami being beaten like a dead dog, covered in blood, and his face was bruised and bruised. The petite and pitiful Sunuanxi was knocked to the ground, crying miserably. Suddenly everyone stared at Zhang Yi with a strange look. Although they are afraid of Zhang Yi's power and the gun in his hand, but as residents of the middle and lower classes of the cabin, they instinctively believed that Zhang Yi was a bad guy. People's but has always determined their head. Zhang Yi hadn't had time to talk to Zhu Yunk yet. Li Zhangyu, the leader of the Yanliu group, walked over angrily. His expression was as forbearing and restrained as possible, but he couldn't suppress the anger in his eyes. He stood in front of Zhang Yi, blocking the way between Zhang Yi and Sunuanxi. "Mr. Zhang, you promised me that you would protect the lives of everyone in our team. I hope you can give us a reasonable explanation for this matter." With Li Zhangyu taking the lead, middle and lower class residents became bolder. "Yes, how can you hit someone casually? You almost beat him to death." Zi Yunfen from Yanliu group shouted. BMO crossed himself on his chest. Oh my god, this is so cruel. He is so old, he will die. Hearing this, everyone looked at Yamada Masanori with increasingly compassionate eyes, and at the same time, looked at Zhang Yi with even more resentment. Li Zhang Yi's girlfriend Zhang Yi is a surgeon. She bravely walked over to check Yamada Masanomi's injuries. Zhang Yi put his hands in his pockets and looked around. Everyone on the ship, from ZHU Youngtown, actually showed some vague hostility towards him. This made Zhang Yi feel a little funny. I just want to throw him into the sea. What's the problem? Zhang Yi asked everyone openly. Li Zhang was a little unbelievable and asked, just because he is a neon person, you treat him like this? Mr. Zhang, how can you still have such racist thoughts in this age? It's terrible. Zhao Kenna walked next to Zhang Yi and silently supported him. For Zhang Yi, other attitudes are not important at all. On this ship, he had never cared about anyone other than Zhao Kenna. Yeah, just because he's a neon man. So he has to get off my boat today. He spread his hands with a smile. Hey, don't look at me with such strange eyes. Isn't my reason enough? Of course not. Su Nuangxi struggled to get up from the ground, pointing at Zhang Yi and accusing her with tears in her eyes. Your thoughts are simply terrifying. Killing someone because of their nationality is scarier than the devil. BMO and others are also foreign nationals, and there are out and out foreigners. Their faces were full of worry. If Zhang Yi uses this excuse to kill Yamada Masanami, what should they do? How should their lives be protected? Zhang Yi pointed at Su Nuangxi's nose, but looked at Li Zhangyu, Zhang Weiwei and others. It seems that you have been living quite happily on Ganliu Island these past 6 months. It's great to care so much about other people's lives. Zhang Weiwei frowned. She felt that Zhang Yi was acting strangely. So she raised her head and said to Zhang Yi righteously, please don't use such a tone to mock us. Our life is not easy. Of course, we thank you for taking us back to Huaxu Kingdom. But this is not a reason for you to kill at will. Others nodded in agreement, supporting Zhang Weiwei's point of view. Zhang Yi smiled. Do you think I'm being sarcastic or joking with you? Zhang Weiwei did not respond, but her silence expressed her attitude. Laugh. Zhang Yi smiled disdainfully. So, you don't know anything at all. You're just talking to me here. He glanced at Lao Shan and suddenly shouted loudly, Old Shan. Tell them what happened in the Jiangnan region in the past 6 months. Lao Shan said loudly, yes. He walked up to the crowd, glanced coldly at the group of dignitaries, and then said loudly, in the past 6 months, the death toll in the entire Jiangnan region has reached 1.9 million. The death toll ratio is 92.79%. Qianhe City has more than 2,000 million dead and less than survivors. These data shocked everyone present. After they boarded the ship, Zhang Yi and the crew did not communicate with them. So no one knows what is going on in the outside world. However, after listening to Lao Shan's words, they felt chills on their backs. The outside world is actually more cruel than Yanliu Island. Zi Yunfan argued, but what does death caused by natural disasters have to do with your indiscriminate killing of innocent people? Lao Shan glanced at him coldly, and the killing intent in his eyes made Zi Yunfan take 2 steps back. Among these people who died, 20% died indirectly from doomsday natural disasters, or directly from human hands. He took a deep breath. In July this year, the Neon Ronin began to land in Linhai City. In less than 10 days, they slaughtered more than 7 residents of Linhai City. Later, they rampaged across 8 cities including Jiangning, Huazhou, and Weining. As a result, more than people died directly and indirectly. As soon as these words came out, the attitude of some Huaxu people at the scene suddenly changed. Their eyes burned with rage. The national hatred and family feud with Neon can be said to be a world feud. As history goes by, the memories of the past have long been blurred in the hearts of many people. No one wants to live a lifetime of hatred. But who would have thought that those evil-minded bastards would launch an attack on Huaxu Kingdom again? And it led to the tragic death of tens of thousands of compatriots. Damn little Neon, damn it. These people are simply beasts. They are in the end of the world, and everyone is struggling in pain on the verge of death. They actually add insult to injury and harm the people of Huaxu Kingdom. Chapter 828. There are many things you don't 039 know. After learning the reason why Zhang Yi taught Yamada Masanami a lesson, more than half of the people present immediately changed their minds. The ideas of most Chinese people are simple. They don't want to talk about too many big principles, but they understand in their hearts that there is revenge and grievance. Even Li Zhangyi and Zhang Weiwei couldn't say anything more. It is understandable that a country hates a family. But Li Zhangyi still said to Zhang Yi, I can understand your feelings, but Mr. Yamada is innocent. He helped us a lot on Yanliu Island. Can you spare his life? Seeing this, Zhu Young also stepped forward to persuade Zhang Yi. Yeah, you can't kill a group of people with one shot. It's not good, and it will make people think you are narrow-minded. She approached Zhang Yi, glanced at the Yanliu group, and said to him, besides, there are so many foreigners and expatriates on this ship. If you do this, it will make them fearful and not conducive to unity. Su Nuangxi wiped away her tears, touched her bulging cheeks, and glared at Zhang Yi, her eyes filled with hatred and anger. If you dare to do anything to Mr. Yamada, I will never agree. Yamada Masanami saw so many people speaking for him, and his face shone with hope. Everyone, thank you very much. Zhang Yi sneered. Let him go? Why should I let him go? He walked over, pointed at Yamada Masanami's head and asked, how much do you know about him? Su Nuangxi couldn't wait to say, Mr. Yamada is a good man. I can testify, and everyone in our group can testify. Li Zhangyi also said to Zhang Yi, Mr. Yamada was really good to us when he was on the island. Haha, not bad. What a good one. Zhang Yi sneered and paced on the deck, looking down at Yamada Masana on the ground with playful eyes. This world is very strange. The more villains you are, the more you like to pretend to be a kind person in front of others. I guess when you were in Neon, you must often go to temples to donate money, or even donate to charities to help the poor, right? Su Nuangxi looked at Zhang Yi in surprise, her eyes full of doubts. How do you know this? Mr. Yamada is a well-known philanthropist. But she soon changed her tone. You know he is such a kind person, but you still do such evil things to him. It shows that you are really a heartless person. I advise you to return as soon as possible. Apologize to Mr. Yamada and get him treatment. Su Nuangxi covered her face with one hand and pointed stubbornly at Zhang Yi with the other, like a fighter for justice. Zhang Yi glanced at her coldly and scolded, you know nothing. This sound scared Su Nuangxi and took several steps back. Zhang Yi continued to say leisurely, Yamada Zengnan, I remember that you seem to have a name from the Huaxu kingdom, Liu Zengnan. When I first heard this name, I felt familiar. 5 years ago, you established Weemin Food Co. Limited in Xianhai City. The main food was prepared dishes. At first, your name was Liu Zengnan. Because you spoke fluent Mandarin, no one knew that you were actually Nina Jirito. Your real name is Yamada Masami. Your company's main business is prepared food. Through various channels, you obtain ingredients that are not food safe from overseas and manufacture food for the market. Zhang Yi slowly talked about Yamada Masanami's past while pacing, and Yamada Masanami's face was gradually turning pale. Among the crowd, entrepreneur Ma Wenzheng couldn't help but frowned when he heard these words, as if he had thought of something. Zhang Yi continued, in 2047, that is, about 4 years ago, you bought connections and allowed your food company's food to enter campuses in many cities in Jiangnan. Later, due to a food poisoning incident, your company's food safety issues were exposed. People discovered that the raw materials used by your company, which were claimed to be high-end imported ingredients, turned out to be junk ingredients that other countries did not want, and even expired ingredients. When people found out, you quickly escaped from the shell, transferred the company, and then fled back to Neon. In that wave, you made at least several billion, right? Or tens of billions? I'm sorry, I'm just a small warehouse manager, and don't know much about these things. Because I work very close to your warehouse, I always know what your company produces. The employees in your warehouse told me personally that, even if they were fed to pigs, they would be afraid of affecting their health, and they would never eat it. Zhang Yi glanced down at him, his eyes as disgusting as looking at a dirty pig. Letting those teenagers eat your company's shoddy food has damaged their health and even caused them to be hospitalized due to food poisoning. Will your conscience hurt? I don't think you have a conscience. It's just that, haha. Zhang Yi deliberately raised the decibel level and said loudly, the damages to the health of the children of Huaxu country. What does this have to do with you, President Neon? Relation. Yamada Masanori's body trembled like chaff, shaking violently. Others around him finally realized why Zhang Yi was so cruel to Yamada Masanami when he saw him. This kind of person deserves to die. I remembered that the food safety issues in Jiangnan were reported on the news, and it turned out that this bitch was responsible. A woman ran over excitedly and kicked Yamada Masanami. It turns out that you are the culprit. My son got food poisoning because he ate the food provided by your company. That's a high-end private school, and you've actually infiltrated it. Go to hell, you bastard. At this time, no one at the scene dared to stand up and defend Yamada Masanami. Sheh-Chen came over angrily, kicked him several times, pointed at him and cursed, "Neon bastard, zimmer old horse, Shakit. Yixi, I have long seen that you are not a good person. You actually pretended to be a good person and deceived us. Fortunately, our wise captain saw through your disguise and exposed your clumsy lies. Dirty and despicable bedbug, use your life to apologize to the poor children you have harmed." Yamada Masanami raised his head and defended with tears in his eyes. I deserve to die. I'm not a human being. But I was forced to do it. Even if I don't do this business, there are still people who do it. And what I earned was only a small amount, and the big amount was taken by your own people. Please, give me a way to survive. I have changed my ways. I pray to the Buddha every day. I have also funded many welfare homes and nursing homes. Yamada Masanami looked at everyone with pleading eyes, and everyone avoided him. This kind of person really deserves to die. Yamada Zengnan's heart went cold. Suddenly he thought of Sunuangsi, that extremely kind little girl. So he crawled to Sunuangsi's feet, hugged her legs and cried, "Miss Su, I have always regarded you as my daughter. As you know, my daughter died young. From the first time I saw you, I have regarded you as my daughter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 829, Ocean Turtle Milk. Sunuangsi couldn't bear it. She thought of Yamada Masanami's kindness to her on Yanliu Island. Because I'm afraid that she will starve, I will take care of her first, if there is any high quality protein. So Sunuangsi stood in front of Yamada Zengnan, stared at Zhang Yi and said, "Everyone makes mistakes, but nothing can improve them. Why can't we give him a chance? He is a very kind person now. You cannot take his life away easily." Zhang Yi looked at her with a stupid look. "Are you sick? The Holy Mother's heart can reach this level, which is disgusting. I'm not kidding you." Sunuan stamped her feet angrily. "I can attest to that. He's really kind," she explained. "When we were on Ganryu Island, we were often hungry at first and couldn't eat. He would secretly go to the retinees and milk the sea turtles for me to drink. My body temperature was very low, so he would hold me to sleep at night and help me keep warm. Do you think such a person is a bad person?" Sunuangsi looked at everyone with her big eyes and a firm expression on her face, making people clearly realize that she was not joking. She very seriously believes that Yamada Masami is a good person. Zhang Yi listened and suddenly felt a little strange. "What is turtle milk? Hey, does this turtle thing have milk?" Zhao Ke frowned. "Whales do have milk, but sea turtles are oviparous animals, so they shouldn't have any." Lao Shan replied firmly, "How can there be milk in that thing?" Sunuangsi blinked her eyes, snorted, and said triumphantly, "You have little knowledge, right? There is a kind of ocean turtle that feeds its offspring with milk." She looked at Li Zhangyu. "Teacher Li, haven't you ever caught a turtle? Tell him, do turtles have milk?" Li Zhangyu's face looked a little ugly. The turtle thing was a secret he didn't want to mention again. Zhu Yang couldn't stand it anymore. "Lisa, turtles don't have milk. No turtle in the world can produce milk." Sunuangsi got angry. "I really drank it." Zhang Yi frowned at first, but then, he suddenly figured out something. "I know what she drank. Zhao Ke's eyes became strange next to her. It can't be that one, right? But the smell is so obvious, is it really impossible to detect it? Heating it may have miraculous effects. Besides, she was so hungry that she wanted to eat everything. But it was indeed high in protein. The eyes of the people around him suddenly changed. They looked at Yamada Masanami with disgust, especially the women who looked at him more like trash. The perversion of the neon man is evident. Sunuanxi still didn't know why, and said proudly, "You should all learn more about biology. Is there really turtle milk?" Zhang Yi had a bad smile on his face, but he was unwilling to expose it in front of so many people, especially so many female compatriots. Anyway, everyone already knows about this matter, and Sunuanxi will naturally figure it out later. Now that the matter is clear, let's throw him into the sea. Yamada Masana was so frightened that his eyes widened, and he shouted in horror, "You can't do this. You can't do this to me. I don't want to die. I want to live. Lee Sang, you promised to take me back to land. Help me. Miss Su, I love you the most. You can't watch me die." Zhang Yi waved his hand. "It's hard for anyone to speak now. Stop, I don't allow you to do this." Sunuanxi opened her arms and blocked the two crew members. "How come you can't explain yourself? You should learn to love others, instead of just using violence to solve everything." Zhang Yi finally became impatient. A stupid woman, even if you don't want to pay attention to her, she will go out of her way to pester you. It's so funny that he came to protect a second-rate dealer who makes poisonous food to harm children. Okay, if you protect him like this, then from now on, I will feed you the food from their company every day. In his different space, there is still some food that he collected from major shopping malls and supermarkets. The quality was no longer good, so Zhang Yi was reluctant to throw it away. He planned to use it as a charity to help the victims one day. Now when I met someone with a strong head, I took it out, threw it in the corner of the kitchen for a few nights, and it naturally soaked. The kitchen is warm and humid, which is very suitable for microorganisms to survive. Sunuanxi gritted her teeth, and she mustered up the courage to say, "As long as you don't hurt Mr. Yamada, I will eat those things. So what can I do? I can't kill anyone anyway." Zhang Yi said, "There are some things that cannot be killed by eating them, but, well, aren't your biology very good? Then do you understand that eating protein is somewhat similar to eating people?" Sunuanxi frowned, thought for a moment, and then replied proudly, "Haha, do you want to use this kind of question to embarrass me? Of course it's germ cells." Among the surrounding crowd, some people could not help but laugh, covering their mouths with their hands and laughing. They were holding back very uncomfortable, but they did not dare to laugh out loud, because the occasion was very serious. This made Sunuanxi feel baffled. "Why are you laughing? Is it because you lack common sense in biology?" Zhu Yang couldn't bear it anymore at this time. She was so sick of stupidity that she couldn't bear to watch this stupid goose continue to make a fool of herself. "Don't say a few words." Sunuanxi begged, "Sister, you must help me." Zhu Yang leaned close to her ear and said somewhat unspeakably, "The turtle milk you ate before was actually..." The deck suddenly became quiet. There was only Zhu Yang whispering in Sunuanxi's ear, and her expression gradually becoming shocked, numb, and dull. After listening to Zhu Yang's words, the corners of her eyes twitched. Then he mechanically turned his head to look at Zhu Yang. "Alice, you must be joking with me, right? It's really outrageous. How could I believe it?" Zhu Yang gave her a sad expression. Sunuanxi's pupils narrowed suddenly, and then she rushed to the woman next to her like crazy, shook her shoulders and shouted, "This must be fake, right? There really is ocean sea turtle breast milk, right?" She was sure again and again, but the woman didn't give her the answer she wanted. "Perhaps those are bird eggs, maybe." "Yes, the egg liquid of seabirds," the woman explained helplessly. "But this statement is simply not true. At that temperature, the eggs will freeze in a short time." BMO couldn't help, but walked over and said, "Look on the bright side, Miss Lisa, at least, it's still very nutritious, right?" Sunuanxi could no longer deceive herself. She saw the eyes of everyone around her full of ridicule. "Do not want," she screamed, covered her face, and rushed into the cabin. Zhang Yi shrugged. "I think what the foreigner said makes sense. At least he just let you eat it. 1 second to remember. Mobile version reading URL. Chapter 830 Iron-039. Not a devil after all. SYNOPSIS was directly defeated by Yamada Masanami's methods. Zhang Yi shook his head helplessly. While on the island, he noticed that Yamada Masanami was touching many women in the group. It's just that he is just an old man in his 60s, and he doesn't have the courage to really do anything. So he could only secretly use some dirty means to satisfy his perverted desires. Zhang Yi covered her mouth and felt a little nauseous. She looked at the neon old pervert with disgust. Zhang Yi disagreed. When people are very hungry, they will eat anything. When he was in Ulu community before, he even saw a neighbor eating his own excrement. When people are extremely hungry, there is no sense of propriety, justice or shame, and the dark side of their hearts will be completely released, becoming more perverted and terrifying than wild beasts. Zhang Yi signaled the two crew members to take action. The two men immediately helped Yamada Masanami, who was like a dead dog, and dragged him to the railing. This time, no matter how much Yamada Masanami cried and begged for mercy, no one sympathized with him at all. But in the rock flow group, Bayemo and others who were watching this scene were greatly shocked. Bayemo's face was pale and his body was trembling. Looking directly south of Yamada, I seemed to see the miserable appearance of myself being thrown into the sea and then frozen into ice. For a moment, he was so frightened that he fainted. No, let me go. Yamada Masanami's pleas for mercy had no effect, and he was thrown from a height of dozens of meters. Only a scream and the sound of water splashing were heard. The old pervert flopped in the water for less than a few seconds before he was frozen into an ice pimple by the sea water that was dozens of degrees below zero. Cheng walked to the edge of the ship's side and cursed Yamada Masana loudly. This despicable thing deserves to die. Long live Mr. Zhang. You are the messenger of justice. Thank you very much for discovering this dirty mouse droppings for us. I, Cheng, swear here that I will obey any of your orders unconditionally. Cheng crazily knelt down and licked Zhang Yi. Not literally, he knelt down directly in front of Zhang Yi and then kissed Zhang Yi's feet. Zhang Yi frowned and immediately took a few steps back. My shoes are very expensive. What do you want? Ah, it's my fault. I shouldn't have soiled your precious shoes with my dirty saliva. Cheng knelt on the ground and apologized very devoutly. Everyone can see that Cheng is really scared. He is begging for mercy. In this way, he is praying for Zhang Yi's mercy and avoiding becoming the second Yamada Masana. Because Cheng itself is not a good thing. What he did in Silla was dozens of times more disgusting than the mere businessman Yamada Masami. Zhang Yi hates this kind of people. But I have to admit, sometimes this kind of garbage is useful. He lowered his head with a smile and moved his eyes slightly upward, passing over everyone on the boat. This made the passengers wince involuntarily, feeling as if a knife had been slashed across their bodies. If you want to show your loyalty to me, then prove it to me with facts. Tell me, is there any other garbage on this ship? Especially the neon people. Find them all for me. When Cheng heard this, his eyes suddenly became fierce. I know there are 2 more neon men out there. He got up from the ground and rushed toward the crowd fiercely. Suddenly a woman and a young man ran back in fright. Cheng grabbed the woman and said to Zhang Yi, as if she was taking credit, she is Yamada Masanami's ex-wife, and she is not a good person. The woman begged, he and I divorced 3 years ago. I also immigrated there. He has nothing to do with me anymore. Another young man was also caught by the crew and twisted in front of Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi glanced at the woman and said nothing, instead focusing on the panicked young man. What is your name? The young man spoke tremblingly. This opening indeed had a neon smell. Zhang Yi remembered that this guy never spoke when he was present. It's none of my business. I have never harmed anyone from Huaxu Kingdom. It has nothing to do with me. Zhu Young walked over quickly. Zhang Yi, that's enough. That's enough, isn't it? Zhang Yi looked at her and asked. Zhu Young was a little frightened by Zhang Yi's eyes, and for a moment he didn't know how to reply. Zhang Yi smiled. Lao Shan came over and asked Zhang Yi how to deal with them. Lao Shan's eyes asked Zhang Yi if he wanted to beat them first. Zhang Yi said, forget it, I'm not a devil after all. He looked at the woman and the young man and said calmly, "Don't worry, I won't kill you. I, Zhang Yi, am not an unreasonable executioner." The two of them breathed a sigh of relief and thanked them repeatedly. Zhang Yi said, "It's just that I won't kill you, but I have no reason to save you. When I knew that my ship would save the lives of 2 neon people, I felt awkward from the bottom of my heart. It's a pity that I'm too kind-hearted and unwilling to attack ordinary people." He pointed at the 2 people in front of him. "So, I won't kill you. I can send you a lifeboat. You can get off the boat and leave. If you're lucky, you'll be able to encounter land." After drifting along the ocean currents for about half a year, the expressions of women and young men who originally had some hope suddenly changed. How is this different from letting them die? Let alone the ocean. Even if they encountered an island, they wouldn't be able to survive for long. "As long as you leave the Jinfeng, you will die," the two begged. Other passengers were also speechless by Zhang Yi's operation. Zi Yunfen whispered, "Why are you pretending to be a good person? Isn't this just murder? It's unnecessary." Others have similar thoughts and feel that Zhang Yi is both responsible and upright. Zhu Yunk expressed his thoughts directly. "Why don't you just let them die?" Zhang Yi nodded. "Yes, otherwise what do you think? You." Zhu Yunk and others were speechless. Zhang Yi said, "Why should people do things with meaning? Is it possible just to make themselves happy? Zhang Yi has done things all his life, so why do he need to explain to others?" The reason why he didn't kill the 2 neon men with his own hands was because he didn't like to attack people who didn't provoke him. But he won't save these 2 people either. Therefore, this matter is left to God to decide. It is as simple as that. And what does the life and death of the 2 of them have to do with Zhang Yi? He is not the father of these 2 people. They should be grateful to me because there is still a 1 in a million chance of surviving the rafting. If you don't leave, I will really do it. Cha Haicheng's excited voice sounded next to him. He raised his hands and shouted, "Long live Mr. Zhang. You are so gentle to these 2 neon people. You are really a rare kind person in the world. You are simply a godlike figure." 1 second to remember. Mobile version reading URL. Chapter 831. I don't owe them anything. Zhang Yi waved and asked Lao Shan to prepare a lifeboat for them. Lao Shan came over and said in Zhang Yi's ear, "We have only prepared 2 lifeboats. If we give them to them." Zhang Yi glanced at him. "It's cool to give them a raft, but are you really going to give them a lifeboat?" Lao Shan understood and immediately smiled and led people to find the rubber boat. Although Zhu Yunk and others criticized Zhang Yi's actions after experiencing being thrown into the sea due to the south of the mountain, they were not so difficult to accept what happened to the other 2 neon people. You see, at least Zhang Yi gave them a boat and didn't just throw them into the sea. People are like that. If you want to put a window in the wall, people will stop you for various reasons. But if you say you want to tear down the wall, people will come and tell you in a compromise way, "Why not open a window?" After Lao Shan brought the rubber boat over, the 2 neon people cried for a while. But Zhang Yi's eyes were very cold, and he didn't care about the life or death of these 2 people at all. Oh no. In principle, he didn't care much about the life or death of most people on this ship. Out of humanitarianism, when driving them down, Zhang Yi prepared 3 days of dry food for them. In this way, everyone looked at Zhang Yi and suddenly felt that this person was still very humane. After dealing with these 3 people, Zhang Yi waved his hand. "Let's all disperse." People on the boat returned to the cabin one after another with their own thoughts in mind. Most people had no sympathy for the plight of a few neon people and even laughed about it. "These little neons are so hidden. I don't even notice them on weekdays. Hey, they deserve to die. I think Mr. Zhang did the right thing. Why did they get on our Huaxu Kingdom's ship? Speaking of those bitches, they dared to come to the land of Huaxu Kingdom to do evil, and I got angry all over. If I had been here, I would have rushed up and fought with them." Probably only some foreigners in the Yanliu group had some concerns about this matter. Before She Haicheng left, he ran over to express his loyalty to Zhang Yi. "Mr. Zhang, from now on please rest assured, as long as I'm here, I will never allow anything that displeases you to happen. Cha Haicheng is a good dog. Maybe this dog is not loyal enough, but there is absolutely no problem in letting him bite his companions to protect himself." Zhang Yi stared at him with a smile, reached out and patted his face gently. Very well, keep an eye on them for me. But remember, don't bite anyone. I don't like the mess on the boat. Otherwise, you will be the first person I deal with. He Cheng swallowed his saliva and nodded. Mr. Zhang, be loyal. After they all left, Zhang Yi found Zhu Yang standing by the railing, looking at the rubber boat going away with a look of compassion. Are there any miracles in this world? Maybe there will be. But few people would think that they could survive when they saw that thin little boat drifting on the vast sea of ice. Zhang Yi didn't intend to ignore her emotions and let her experience more of the cruelty of the world. But Zhu Yang said to Zhang Yi, when you want to deprive them of their right to live, you actually feel very happy inside, right? Zhang Yi looked back at her curiously and raised his eyebrows. Zhu Yang bit her red lips and looked straight at him. Let me ask you, if Yamada Masami was not a bad guy, but an ordinary neon man, would you throw him into the sea just the same? Zhang Yi said without any hesitation, of course. In fact, there is not much difference to me. I don't owe them anything. They may be good people or bad people, but they don't have any kindness towards me. So as long as I'm happy, I can throw them off my boat. He smiled and said, and remember, I'll let them live a few more days. They should thank me. Zhu Yang frowned. If they hadn't boarded the ship at the beginning, they might still be alive and well now. Zhang Yi raised his neck and laughed. Miss Zhu, a playful and cold look flashed across his eyes. You are so naive. From the moment he landed on Ganliu Island, all the people related to Li Zhang will die if they don't follow him. The secret about the source of God must not be leaked at all. Zhu Yang realized something and looked at Zhang Yi in shock and horror. Zhang Yi ignored her and went back to the cabin with Zhao Keita. Compared to Zhu Yang, who is still young, Zhao Keita has been standing beside Zhang Yi with a silent smile. Zhao Keita has long been accustomed to everything that happens here. This side of the rock flow group. He Cheng got off the cabin triumphantly, even humming a ditty leisurely. Today he stole the show. With his help, Zhang Yi found the two neon men hiding in the crowd. No matter what, he will be Zhang Yi's eyes and ears from now on. In this way, he will have a special status in the middle cabin, where the rock flow group is located. As soon as he came down, he was suddenly held down by several people. Shehanari, why did you expose Notoneko and Sagora Akihara? A member of the rock flow group grabbed him by the collar angrily, his eyes almost bursting with fire. What's wrong with them? You want to deprive them of the chance to live. He Cheng looked indifferent. Hey, I'm from Silla. Isn't it natural that Silla people hate neon people? And you must be grateful to me for saving you. Everyone knows that Mr. Zhang hates neon people. If we don't report the knowledge, can you guarantee that we will not be implicated? Can you? He Cheng shouted and asked the members of the Yanliu group. This question made everyone hesitate. No one can guarantee what will happen to Zhang Yi. If it really involves themselves, they won't be willing. He Cheng broke away from the man's hand with disdain and then straightened his collar. What you need to consider now is how to live well. He looked at the huge and terrifying sea of ice outside the window and said in a deep voice, no one can guarantee that they will survive until the ship completely docks. So, you have to do whatever it takes. Li Zhang watched silently from the side. He did not make a move against He Cheng. After listening to He Cheng's words, he returned to his room thoughtfully. In their room at this time, Zhang Wei, entrepreneur Ma Wenzheng, and several moderate members of the Yanliu group were present. 1 second to remember. Mobile version reading URL, chapter 832. As soon as Li Zhang entered the room, he said with a complicated mood, Mr. Zhang was too cruel. Now I don't know whether asking for help from the Jiangnan region was the right thing to do. He sat on the edge of the bed with a complicated expression. Zhang Wei came over, hugged his back and comforted him. This is not your fault. If we continue to stay on that island, we will not survive for a month. At this time, Ma Wenzheng crossed his arms and said calmly, although that person's style of doing things is a bit tougher, I don't think he is a bad person. Everyone in the room heard the spiritual leader speak and couldn't help but raise their heads and look at him. Ma Wenzheng shrugged and analyzed the crowd with a serious expression. Now is an extraordinary time. After this period of understanding, I also know some things about the outside world. In fact, the outside world is more cruel than on Yanliu Island, and people have to pay more to survive. In such an environment, people who can survive cannot be merciful. As the saying goes, in troubled times, we should use strict rules. There is no problem if he manages things more strictly. At least in terms of food supply and other living conditions, he still treats us well. With Ma Wenzheng's analysis, everyone couldn't help but nodded and felt much more relaxed. Zhang Yi has a different opinion. She frowned and said, "But I always think that elevating personal grievances to the entire group is a bit excessive. Yamada Masami made a big mistake, and it is right to be punished. But the other two people are indeed innocent." Marvin Zheng shook his head helplessly. When it comes to an avalanche, no snowflake is innocent. Everything is a cycle of cause and effect, and retribution is inevitable. Although I can't do it, I can understand it. Ma Wenzheng's meaning is very clear. Those two people were pitiful, but not the billions of people who died in the apocalypse. Wouldn't it be pitiful for the tens of thousands of Huaxu people who finally survived the apocalypse and were killed by the eclipse? In a chaotic world, the emotion of compassion needs to be backed by strength. The room where Bayamo and others are. Most of the people living in this room are foreigners, including several overseas expats. Bayamo was frightened by Zhang Yi and fainted, and was carried back by others. After he woke up, he kept muttering, "Oh, good." He was extremely scared, fearing that he would be thrown into the sea and turn into ice lumps like Yamada Masami. "It's horrible. It's all horrible." Bayamo covered his head and said in pain. Isenman, who was sleeping opposite him, hurriedly made a silence gesture to him, then looked at the others and pointed at the door. Bayamo suddenly woke up. After Cheng betrayed the two neon men of the Rockflow group, he caused fear among the people on the ship, especially the foreigners like them. If you show dissatisfaction with Zhang Yi and other crew members, you will probably be reported to the police. He quickly covered his mouth, and after a long time, he deliberately said loudly, "What Mr. Zhang did is so right. In fact, I also hate the neon people very much. They should have died long ago." Isenman also echoed, "I firmly support all the captain's decisions." As soon as these two people spoke, others in the room also woke up, and each one louder than the last began to express their loyalty. Because this guy Cheng might be eavesdropping outside, even others in this room may report them. Cheng opened the door and walked in at this time. When he saw the scene in front of him, his face was full of ridicule. Hey, when did everyone's ideological consciousness become so high? It's a pity. He closed the door with his backhand. "They are not here, and they can't hear what you say." There was a half-smiling expression on his fleshy face, and he glanced at everyone coldly. "Everyone, from now on, I will be Mr. Zhang's spokesperson. I hope you will not make inappropriate remarks, especially not talk about his old man and other adults on the ship." A cold current instantly passed through everyone's body, sending shivers down their spines and shrinking subconsciously. After Yamada Masanami and other three neon men were thrown into the sea, Sheng hurried over to find him the next day. People in the lower cabin who want to come up must obtain permission from the guarding crew. However, Sheng had reported successfully before, and the guarding crew agreed to help him inform Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi opened the door and asked the crew member what happened. The crew member said, "It's that guy from Silla who wants to see you for something. Judging from his appearance, he probably wants to snitch on you and take credit for it." A sarcastic look appeared on the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth. "This kind of dog is very good at biting its own people. And that's not all. Since last night, several people have sneaked over and reported to us the people around them. Captain, they seem to have a lot of dissatisfaction with you in private. They often say bad things about you behind your back. Do you think we should deal with it?" The crew member made a downward gesture. Zhang Yi glanced at him with disdain in his eyes. "When I used to work, my colleagues would scold the leader every day and shout that they wanted to leave. But 5 or 6 years have passed, and the same group of people are still at their posts. When they meet the leader, they are as happy as if they were his own sons. People always have the worst mouths behind their backs. Even your best friends will say bad things about you, let alone them." Zhang Yi crossed his arms and said calmly, "I hate this kind of atmosphere. Tell them not to come and disturb me if it's not an important matter." The crew member lowered his head thoughtfully and thought about it. Then, what counts as a big deal? Zhang Yi thought about it and couldn't help but laugh. In fact, for him, nothing is really a big deal. Under the premise of possessing absolute strength, all behaviors of ordinary people are nothing more than jokes in his eyes. You decide for yourself. After Zhang Yi finished speaking, he waved his hand at him. The crew member scratched his head and left the door of Zhang Yi's room with a vague understanding. Cha Haicheng, who failed to report, was a little depressed. He originally thought that he could rely on this to gain Zhang Yi's trust and climb up to the level of power step by step on the ship, at least to become a privileged person. He was very skilled at playing this trick among Silla's senior leaders. It's a pity that this time, the supreme ruler on the Jinpeng didn't like to do this very much. Zhang Yi put an end to this evil trend of reporting each other. Let some people such as Ma Wenzheng and Li Zhangyi have a good opinion of him. Regardless of your attitude towards Zhang Yi's previous actions, at least it can be seen from this incident that Zhang Yi is not a person who likes to play with power and people's hearts. 1 second to remember. Mobile version reading URL. Chapter 833 Su Nuance's confession. More 2. The next day it was time for dinner. Su Nuance put on a hat to cover her face. After what happened yesterday, she was too embarrassed to see anyone. Although she had never eaten that stuff before, she was tricked by an old man into taking it as a tonic, but it was of a different nature. After arriving at the canteen, Su Nuance walked over and lined up, waiting for Laozi to get her food. Want a standard meal, 5 cents of rice. When everyone saw Su Nuance, they immediately laughed and said, "Zio Su, I heard that you cried out of anger again yesterday." Su Nuance's face turned pale, and veins appeared on her face. Nonsense. How could I cry? I was snoring. Another crew member shouted loudly, "Stop talking nonsense. I saw with my own eyes that your nose was red from crying." This lamentation. What is happening to everyone? How can it be considered crying? Suddenly everyone in the cafeteria burst into happy laughter. Zi Changming looked at her with a playful expression, but reached out his hand. "This is your meal today." Su Nuance didn't take a closer look. She hurriedly took away the food and went back to her room to eat. At this time, she didn't have the courage to stay here any longer. Otherwise she didn't know how the crew would talk about her. After returning to the room, she picked up a spoon and took a mouthful of food and put it in her mouth. But after taking a few bites, I suddenly felt that the taste was not quite right. Su Nuance frowned. At first she thought it was today's special dish, but the more she ate, the more she felt something was wrong. Wow. She spit out the food in one gulp and chewed it for a long time before realizing that the food had spoiled. The rice was fine, but there was definitely something wrong with the fried vegetables, and the frozen chicken was not fresh either. Because it is fried in hot water, I didn't feel it at first when I ate it. However, after taking a few more bites, her picky taste buds would naturally notice something was wrong. What happened to today's meal? Su Nuance plucked the food a few times, and when she took a closer look, she actually saw mold spots on it. Vomit. She lay down next to an old bucket and vomited profusely. After a while, she angrily ran over to Zi Changming to question her. "Laozi, why are all the meals you cooked today spoiled?" she said angrily. Zi Changming and others were sitting at the table eating at this time, but he looked at her with a playful smile. No one was surprised by her arrival, and the tacit understanding on everyone's faces made Su Nuance very uncomfortable. "What are you looking at? I've eaten bad food." Zi Changming pointed at her dinner plate with his chopsticks. "Have you forgotten? Yesterday you said that those problematic foods would not kill people anyway, so the captain asked me to feed you this kind of food for the next week." Presumably Miss Su means what she says, and she won't have any objections. Su Nuance was stunned for a moment, and then she stamped her feet angrily and cried, "But this thing is not for people to eat. It is obviously pig food. It is so unpalatable that I can't eat it at all." Lao Xian pointed out the error in her words. "You're wrong. When we feed pigs in our hometown, we use high quality feed. Who would feed spoiled food? You. Are you not bullying others?" Su Nuan's angry little pearls fell one by one. The crew did not sympathize with her at all, but laughed. "Isn't this what you asked for yesterday? There's nothing we can do. You'll have this standard of food for the next week." You said it yourself. You can't kill anyone by eating it. When SYNOPSIS thought about having to eat this kind of food for the next week, she couldn't help but cover her mouth and retched. But no one sympathized with her. Everyone was just watching the fun and treating her as a delicious dish to go with wine. Of course, everyone would just go on like this without her. When SYNOPSIS saw that no one was paying attention to her, she screamed at Little Pearl and ran to Zhu Young to complain. But at this time, Zhu Young was also very upset. Tommy was crying there again, which made her upset, and she couldn't be coaxed. This made Zhu Young almost collapse, and sometimes she even quietly put her hands on his neck. I'm really crazy. Why did I take on this burden in the first place? She thought angrily. At this time, SYNOPSIS came to find her, and of course she was not angry. Didn't you pick this yourself? It's really causing trouble for yourself. Just bear with it. It's only for a week anyway. But I'm afraid it will spoil my stomach. Didn't you say yesterday that you can't kill people if you eat them? Zhu Young was angry and spoke harshly. SYNOPSIS felt extremely wronged, but she didn't dare to really fall out with Zhu Young. After returning to the room, she huddled in the corner and hugged her knees tightly. It feels like the whole world is isolating her. But the hunger in the stomach is very obvious. If this problem cannot be solved, she will not have normal food to eat for the next 7 days. So after thinking about it and hesitating for a few hours, she decided to go over and have a good talk with Zhang Yi. So she came to the door of Zhang Yi's room and knocked on Zhang Yi's door. Who? It's me, SYNOPSIS. Mr. Zhang, I have something I want to talk to you about. Zhang Yi opened the door and saw SYNOPSIS standing in front of the door with red eyes, tightly pursed lips, and her hands tangled together uneasily. A narrow smile appeared at the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth. What are you doing here? SYNOPSIS sobbed twice, and the little pearls had already fallen off. Hello Mr. Zhang, my name is SYNOPSIS, and I want to say sorry to you. Here, first of all, I sincerely apologize to you for my attitude yesterday. I have been thinking and reflecting on the incident until now. When I truly, objectively, and deeply understood the truth you told me, I really blame myself, feel ashamed, and hate myself. I don't understand why I'm so ignorant and paranoid. I accept your criticism, but also give you a direct and clear explanation. I really know I was wrong. As she spoke, she covered her mouth and whimpered, so can you please stop giving me expired food? Ooh. Zhang Yi nodded in satisfaction. There is no greater good than making things right. Just know that you are wrong. SYNOPSIS covered her face with her hands and carefully exposed her eyes to observe Zhang Yi's expression. So, are you willing to forgive me? Do I no longer have to eat expired food? Zhang Yi smiled. He shook his head. No. Tears are worthless to me. You'd better eat a few more of those meals to make your memory last longer. SYNOPSIS said anxiously, I will die. No pig will eat that kind of thing. What if I eat it and my body is damaged? Zhang Yi smiled confidently. Oh, you can rest assured about this. We have the best doctors. SYNOPSIS. 1 second to remember. Mobile version reading URL. Chapter 834 The turmoil in the lower cabin. SYNOPSIS had a stomachache that night and was in terrible pain. But this problem is quite easy to solve. With Zhao here, this kind of minor problem won't kill anyone anyway. The most it would do is make her suffer. Zhang Yi hated her saintly character, so he asked Zhao to treat her illness. She was cured, but not all of her. She has to suffer a little bit. Zhao said with a smile. This is easy to handle. If a doctor wants to make the patient suffer, then she will have 100 ways. After saying that, she put down the ordinary painless needle in her hand and took out a large glass needle. Usually that is used to inject cells. In short, in the next period of time, SYNOPSIS truly tasted what it meant to be miserable. She was struggling to stay alive and there was no way she could cause any more trouble to Zhang Yi. But as the old saying goes, where there are people, there will be rivers and lakes and disputes. This kind of calm could not be maintained, and soon the people in the bottom cabin made a huge noise again. One night a few days later, Zhang Yi strolled on the deck as usual and observed the sea surface. Beware of danger. Suddenly, there was a loud sound in his ears, as if there was a poor country band playing fiercely in the cabin. It was accompanied by noisy shouts. "What's the situation?" Zhang Yi frowned. He realized that the source of the sound was the living cabin on the bottom floor. The people living there are expatriates and Chinese brought back from Yanliu Island. The living standard of this group of people on the Jimpfeng is the worst. But that's only relative. Zhang Yi will not let them lack food and clothing. Compared with being on Yanliu Island, they are at least infinitely better. If it weren't for Zhu Yang's request and Zhang Yi's consideration of the need to go to Xianhe City to replenish the population, he might not have brought these people back. At this moment, Lao Xian and several crew members walked over from the control room with weapons in their hands, cursing. They saw Zhang Yi when they were passing by on the deck. Lao Xian hurried over to greet Zhang Yi. "Captain, those guys below are making trouble. I'll go over and take a look." Zhang Yi glanced at the ice sea under the night, and there seemed to be something secret and dangerous lurking in the deep sea. According to the habits of marine life, giant beasts generally live in the deep sea and do not easily come to the surface of the sea. So it's not easy to encounter a huge sea monster. Zhang Yi had nothing to do and wanted to see what those guys were doing. So he said, "Let me go over with you and have a look." He, Lao Xian and others went to the bottom cabin to check the situation. The living area is divided into 3 levels. If you want to go to the bottom cabin, you have to pass through the middle cabin, which is the area where the Rockflow group lives. By this time, the trouble had spread to the middle layer. Many residents of the lower cabin climbed to the middle deck with pots, pans, and anything that could make noise, banging and shouting. "We don't have enough to eat, give us something to eat." "How come the people above you can eat and drink so much, but we can't even get enough to eat rice? Give us food, give us food." The door on the middle floor is usually locked, and they are not allowed to enter or exit at will. The door from the lower level to the middle level has been broken by some residents of the lower level. Zhang Yi asked someone to point the gun down. "Once those guys want to riot, just shoot," Zhang Yi said without mercy. "Yes." The crew members said in unison with sneers on their lips. None of them are murderous, and they will never pay attention to such small movements. A crew member walked over and opened the cabin door. I saw that the aisle below was densely packed with people. These are the inhabitants of the bottom cabin. Those in the Yanliu group were hiding in their rooms and did not dare to come out. Seeing Zhang Yi and Lao Xian appear, the voices of those people suddenly became quieter. Zhang Yi and Lao Xian's pressure is still there. They don't dare to act recklessly. The most important thing is that Zhang Yi and the others have guns. This is more effective than 1,000 words. However, a few people at the front still plucked up the courage to step forward and said loudly to Zhang Yi, "Mr. Zhang, we ask for enough food. You promised us that we can have enough to eat. Now everyone is starving to death. You can't keep your word." Several people behind him also shouted, "Yes, why can the people above have a lot of food and fish, but we can't even eat porridge? This is not fair. We also want to live, and we want to eat." Zhang Yi slowly raised a finger and put it in front of his mouth. He didn't yell, he just said something calmly and coldly. "Shut your mouths." The terrifying murderous look in Zhang Yi's eyes made the leading guys shut their mouths in fear. "Old Shan, what's going on? Didn't I say that everyone's food must be supplied regularly and rationed?" Lao Xian immediately shouted to one of his subordinates, "Go and call Lao Zi over here. Ask him what's going on." Seeing Zhang Yi's attitude of dealing with the problem, the people below stopped making trouble and just waited there quietly. Zhang Yi said to them, "Don't stay here all the time. It's quite cold when the cold wind blows in. Let's change places and have a good chat about this issue." Zhang Yi never gives too much when it comes to food, but he also never skimps on it. The supplies in other dimensions are very abundant, and these refugees are complaining that they don't have enough to eat. There must be something fishy about it. Zhang Yi must figure it out. If someone really deducts their food, Zhang Yi will deal with it impartially. But if they are greedy and think their food is not delicious, they deliberately throw it away. Or they simply want to improve their living standards and get the same food as those in the middle and upper class cabins. Zhang Yi will not tolerate them. This is the first large-scale turmoil since leaving Yanliu Island 10 days ago. Zhang Yi directly called everyone on the ship to a warehouse room on the upper deck, where a temporary investigation meeting was held. In less than 10 minutes, except for a few crew members who stayed in the control room, everyone else arrived. Everyone is clearly divided, and people in different cabins occupy different positions. There were not that many chairs in the room, and most people sat on the floor or stood against the wall. Zhu Yang frowned and asked Zhang Yi, "What happened?" Zhang Yi glanced at her and said calmly, "You'll find out later." He called over the guy who had led the trouble. It was a fisherman named Lu Dahe who went to Yanliu Island on a fishing boat after the end of the world. He also has two brothers, one named Zhang Yi and the other named Yu Gang. All three were business partners on the ship. Chapter 835 Stowaways on the boat. Lu Dahe stood up and confidently stated the fact that there was a lack of food in the bottom cabin. Our food supply is always in short supply, and everyone is hungry and full every day. Mr. Zhang, we didn't have anything to say at the beginning. Your kindness in taking us away is already a life-saving grace. So even if we don't have anything to eat, we just have to endure it. The worst we can do is starve. Zhang Yi frowned. Everyone's food supply is rationed, and no one will be missing. Unless one of you has a big appetite, then you have to reflect on your reasons. You should eat less. When you are hungry, you have only one worry. But after you are full, you will have countless worries. Lu Dahe hurriedly said, "We don't have much to eat. The adults can only eat half full, and the children can eat percent full. Although there are fishermen among us who work hard and have a lot of food, the difference cannot be so much." Zi Changming was unhappy at this time. He walked forward, pointed at Lu Dahe's nose and cursed. "Don't you dare to criticize me. What do you mean? Can I deprive you of food?" Lu Dahe lowered his head and stared at Zi Changming and Zhang Yi silently. Although he did not answer, the meaning was self-evident. Zhang Yi was not angry and continued to call for inquiries. "In this case, why do you suddenly think of making trouble? Could it be that people are starving to death?" At this time, the expressions of several crew members became uncomfortable. Even Zhu Yang, who was sitting next to Zhang Yi, frowned quietly, as if there was something difficult to say. In this weird atmosphere, Zhang Yi certainly understood that something must have happened that he didn't know about. But he couldn't understand why there was a shortage of food. It was impossible for Zi Changming to withhold food, because there was no point in keeping it. The crew had much better food than that. Old Shan. Zhang Yi gave Lao Shan a wink, his eyes full of questioning. Zhang Yi's meaning is self-evident. Things on the ship are usually handled by Lao Shan. Zhang Yi may not know about these things, but if Lao Shan doesn't know about them, it would be a dereliction of duty on his part. Lao Shan smiled awkwardly. "Mr. Zhang, that's actually what happened." Lao Shan eloquently told Zhang Yi and others, and this made everyone basically understand the ins and outs of the matter. It turned out that the problem of lack of food in the bottom cabin had existed from the beginning. The reason is unknown, and Lao Shan and the others are too lazy to take care of this kind of thing. After all, the food in the bottom cabin is a big pot of rice. As long as they carry the bucket over every day, it is up to them to eat and drink how they want. There is no problem with the materials distributed by Zhang Yi. They are indeed supplied according to the quantity per person, which is theoretically enough. But then something went wrong. If it were just like this, it wouldn't make them feel resentful. Not full, but not hungry either. But it's still the same old problem. The crew members will naturally become lonely after being at sea for a long time, and they will also need spiritual and physical comfort. Therefore, they often run to there are fewer people in the rock flow group, and there are relatively more women in the bottom cabin. And their lack of food gave the crew a bargaining chip to exchange. Later, this contact became more frequent, and people in the lower cabins could often come to the upper and middle cabins to see the food they were eating. People are not afraid of darkness, but if they see the light, the desires in their hearts will be aroused. Those in the lower cabin, who had never had enough to eat, gradually learned how luxurious the lives of those on the upper two floors were. I listened to some people vividly describe the sailors' meals, which were full of meat and fish. Even those in the middle cabin above them can often get rich protein. This caused the people in the bottom cabin to lose control of their emotions, which eventually turned into the riot today. It's not something that comes out of the blue, but it's something that has been building up for a long time. Lu Dahe looked at Zhang Yi, his dark skin reflecting a dazzling light under the light. "Mr. Zhang, It's not that we don't know how to be grateful. We don't want to go against you. But we are compatriots after all. Why do these foreigners have to let us starve when they can have enough to eat? At worst, we can work in exchange for food. He pointed at the foreigners in the Yanliu group and said. This shocked BMO and others. Don't talk nonsense. What's wrong with foreigners? I can also work, and I can also love Huaxu country. Zhang Yi rubbed his hands. I have figured out the cause and effect of the matter. The root of the problem is still not enough food, right? Everyone in the lower cabin nodded. Zhang Yi glanced at Zi Changming. Old Z, what's going on? Zi Changming hurriedly explained. Mr. Zhang, even if you give me 100 courages, I would not dare to disobey your order and deprive them of food. Besides, what's the point of having so much food for me? Zhang Yi nodded. I know. When his gaze passed over Zhu Yonk, there was an obvious expression of discomfort on her face. But Zhang Yi smiled strangely. He stood up from the sofa and walked to the middle of the warehouse. In terms of food, there is actually quite a lot of food. But everyone still doesn't have enough to eat. What's the reason? Big guys don't understand either. Zhang Yi raised a finger. The reason is very simple. This is just a basic arithmetic problem. Even elementary school students can understand it. As he spoke, he walked up to a little boy in the bottom cabin and reached out to touch his head. Children, uncle will give you a test. If the total amount of food remains the same, under what circumstances will the average amount of food shared by each person become less? The little boy replied without thinking, as long as there are more people. Zhang Yi smiled and touched his head. So smart. There is only one truth to the matter, and that is that there are stowaways in the bottom cabin. Zhang Yi said with a smile. As soon as these words came out, the whole warehouse suddenly became chaotic, and everyone was talking. What? There are stowaways? Isn't it possible? The security was so tight at that time, how could they let people go? Lao Shan hurriedly said to Zhang Yi, Mr. Zhang, we have strictly screened the people who board the ship, and no one will take advantage of it. Zhang Yi thought of the guys he saw using hook locks to sneak onto the ship at that time. Some countries in Southeast Asia have many people who are good at climbing. Some may even work part-time as pirates. Normally, this is an unlikely situation, but if someone is acting in a coordinated manner, there's no telling. Zhang Yi's eyes fell on Zhu Yonk, with a teasing smile in his eyes. But this look made Zhu Yonk feel like he had fallen into an ice cave, and he subconsciously looked away, feeling uncomfortable all over. 1 second to remember. Mobile version reading URL. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 836. On the Jinfeng, Zhu Yonk's authority is theoretically second only to Zhang Yi. After all, everyone knows that she is the niece of the commander-in-chief of Jiangnan region. Zhang Yi would also take care of her in small matters, not to mention Lao Shan and others. At that time, there were only 2 people on the ship who could provide cover for the stowaways and allow them to move into the bottom cabin smoothly. Either Zhu Yonk or Zhao Keller. But Zhao Keller is not that stupid. Everything about her is centered on Zhang Yi. Then the only possibility left is Zhu Yonk. After seeing Zhu Yonk's evasive gaze, Zhang Yi was completely convinced of this. Zhu Yonk felt uncomfortable all over and was ready to be scolded by Zhang Yi. The truth of the matter was as Zhang Yi suspected. It was indeed Zhu Yonk who opened the back door for a group of stowaways. There are about 20 people. In order to survive, they desperately climbed onto the ship. There were at least hundreds of people who did this, and most of them were shot into the sea by Lao Shan and his men. When Zhu Yonk saw the tragic situation of corpses falling into the sea of ice like dumplings, he couldn't bear it, so he covered them and took them into the bottom cabin. The people on the boat all have similar faces, and the languages they speak on weekdays are also very complicated, so there is not much communication. As long as you reduce your contact with outsiders, you will not be easily exposed. Zhu Yonk's idea was to bring these people on board first to create an established fact. Even if Zhang Yi was discovered by then, he wouldn't be able to throw all 20 people into the sea cruelly, right? Zhu Young bit her lips and thought to herself, at worst, they will lower my food level and ground me. I'll just endure it. But Zhang Yi didn't pay any attention to her. Zhang Yi could guess almost everything Zhu Young was thinking. She thinks she's great, right? Want to sacrifice yourself in exchange for the survival of the stowaways? Okay, great. Zhang Yi has always liked the beauty of adults, so I can give her such an opportunity. Zhang Yi glanced at the group of people in front of him. Among them were some stowaways who had evasive eyes and were extremely nervous. They were terrified. Zhang Yi only needs to ask Liu Shan to count the number of people and then investigate them one by one to find them all. But what's the point of doing that? It seemed like it could do nothing but come across as a demon. It would also make Zhu Young have a very bad impression of him, but she herself would not reflect on it at all. Therefore, Zhang Yi had a more interesting idea in his mind. When he thought about the fun of that plan, the corners of his mouth almost touched the back of his ears. Miss Zhu and Su Nuangxi, what do you think we should do with these stowaways? Zhang Yi suddenly asked Zhu Young and Su Nuangxi behind him. Everyone looked at the two women without knowing why, especially the stowaways, who stared at them with uneasy eyes, as if a drowning person was holding onto a straw. Zhu Young couldn't understand Zhang Yi's thoughts and thought he was humiliating himself. But she still bit her lip and insisted, they are all lives. Since they have survived, we cannot abandon them. I think we should take them back to Huaxu country and find a way out for them. The stowaways looked at Zhu Young, their eyes filled with gratitude. Su Nuangxi looked at Zhang Yi with strange eyes. But after hesitating for a while, her holy mother nature broke out. Of course I choose to forgive them. They just want to live. What's wrong with them? Liu Shan and some people in the Yanliu group either sneered or shook their heads helplessly. They still don't understand Mr. Zhang very well. With Mr. Zhang's character, how can they tolerate the existence of these stowaways? After listening to what the two said, Zhang Yi nodded approvingly. Well, I forgive them. Now that we are on the ship, just stay, everyone. Even Liu Shan and Zhu Young looked at Zhang Yi like a stranger. That feeling seems to be asking, have you been taken away from your body? Only Zhao Ken glanced at Zhang Yi in slight surprise, then tilted his head and showed a knowing smile. Zhang Yi, something is definitely going to happen again. The hearts of those stowaways dropped, and they were full of gratitude to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi stood in the crowd and said loudly, in the end of the world, human life is worth less than grass. Who of us has not tried our best to stay alive? In times like this, we must unite and help each other and cling together tightly like a family. I know that many people may have some misunderstandings about me. They think that I'm a cold-blooded bad person. But what I did before was just forced by conditions. Actually, I'm a kind person most of the time. Some people lowered their heads in shame, blushing because they had suspected Zhang Yi before. So, Zhang Yi waved his hand. I decided to keep them and let them live a good life with us and tide over the difficulties. Is everyone okay? Inspired by Zhang Yi's speech, the mood in the entire cabin became high. It is good. It is good. It is good. Everyone shouted happily in unison. Zhang Yi nodded with satisfaction. Well, in that case, I won't hold anyone responsible for this incident. It's getting late, so everyone should go back and rest. The stowaways in the lower cabin were relieved and hurriedly turned around and left the cabin. Most people had finished watching the excitement and were still reminiscing about Zhang Yi's kindness. The members of the Yanliu group who had nothing to do with them all left one after another. Lu Dahei and others were in the inner position of the cabin, so they lined up at the back. When they went out, he always felt that something was wrong. Although the atmosphere at the scene was very good, there was a sense of great harmony. But I always feel that something seems to have been forgotten. After thinking for a long time, he suddenly woke up. It's not right. This is wrong. In the beginning, they started trouble because there was not enough food. What's going on now is quite lively and touching, but the fundamental problem has not been solved at all. He slapped his forehead and hurried over to talk to Zhang Yi. However, he was stopped by the crew because Zhang Yi was chatting with Zhu Young at this time. Zhu Young looked at Zhang Yi with surprise and emotion in his eyes. You don't blame me? With your brain, you should know that I made the decision without permission. I thought you would punish me severely. She bit her lip, lowered her head and said. Zhang Yi said, you are so beautiful, I don't have time to punish you every day. I'm afraid it's because I played too many tricks abroad. He smiled, gently and lovingly replied, no, I don't blame you. What's your mistake? You just want everyone to live well. Chapter 837 Me. After Zhu Yang heard Zhang Yi's words, he smiled very happily. Mr. Zhang, I didn't expect you to be so reasonable. She tilted her head and looked at Zhang Yi with bright eyes. My view of you has changed a lot now. I even started to like you a little bit. SYNOPSIS also said beside her, although you often did some annoying things in the past, this time, I have to look up to you. You did a good job. Zhang Yi smiled and did not answer, but changed the topic. It's getting late. Let's all go back and rest. He turns and walks away. When Lu Dahei saw this, he hurriedly shouted, Mr. Zhang, I have something to do, and I have something to ask you for. A deep light flashed across Zhang Yi's eyes. Come and talk about anything. Lu Dahei followed Zhang Yi to the door. There were still some people in the bottom cabin outside, including Lu Dahei's two brothers, Zhang Yi and Yu Gang. They all looked back and found that the matter had not been resolved at all, so they stayed to ask Zhang Yi for an explanation. Mr. Zhang. Zhang Yi walked over and asked calmly, everyone, why don't you go back? It's quite cold outside, can you bear it? The low temperature of dozens of degrees below zero is indeed a bit torture. They are not like Zhang Yi who wears the most advanced cold-proof clothes. But in order to have enough to eat, they still had to bite the bullet and stay here. Lu Dahei said, Mr. Zhang, this matter has not been resolved yet. Those stowaways have stayed. Can we increase our food supply? Otherwise, there will still be not enough food. A group of people nodded repeatedly, expressing their agreement with Lu Dahei's statement. Zhang Yi glanced at him and said with a smile, how much food reserves do you think the ship can have? We came here from Huaxu country and traveled 2 months along the way. We didn't get any supplies at Yanliu Island, so we had to rush back right away. You seem to be a fisherman. You should know how much supplies are left on the ship in this situation. When Lu Dahei heard this, his expression immediately changed. Because according to his experience at sea, there will not be much supplies left on the ship at this time. Zhang Yi sighed, I'm just barely maintaining the supplies on the ship. I didn't plan to take you with me, but who made me kind-hearted? I have to take all of you back. In terms of food, we must also strictly control it. Otherwise, everyone will starve to death in the end. Can you understand? At this moment, these passengers in the bottom cabin understood how difficult it was for Zhang Yi. A few fishermen, in particular, know better than anyone how difficult it is to sail across the ocean. Sorry, Mr. Zhang, we have caused you trouble. But, I think the food eaten by other people on the boat is pretty good too. Yu Gang muttered, then raised his head and looked at Zhang Yi's expression carefully. Zhang Yi said, they are all sailors, so of course we must give priority to ensuring their food. In short, I have nothing to do about this matter. He paused, then emphasized again. It's the amount of food given in the most reasonable way, based on the number of people on board at the beginning. Now that there are more than 20 stowaways, let's just grit our teeth and work hard, and show our spirit. It's better for everyone to starve together than to let them die. When Lu Dahei heard Zhang Yi's words, a light suddenly flashed in his mind. Zhang Yi smiled, and patted his shoulder. Lu Dahei, right? You are a very good person. I believe you can understand what I'm doing. Food is limited. But if there are more people, no one can handle it. Having said this, Zhang Yi sighed. If I had known this, I would have controlled the number of people on board. If there are only a few people here, won't there be enough food? After saying that, Zhang Yi turned around and left, disappearing into the night. Lu Dahei was left there, lowering his head, and thinking for a long time. Zhang Yi and Yu Gang came over and asked, Brother Lu, what does Mr. Zhang mean? Did he help us solve the food problem? Lu Dahei raised his head and glanced at his two brothers. Then he said slowly, it's like a solution. Zhang Yi and Yu Gang, huh? Is it solved or not? Lu Dahei let out a long sigh. Taste it carefully. There was a sinister expression in his eyes. Subconsciously, he looked towards the vast dark sea of ice. This ship is like an isolated island, and they are all survivors on the island. But because of food issues, conflicts will break out sooner or later. He vaguely realized that Zhang Yi was telling him what to do, but he wasn't sure. If he makes the wrong move, he could put himself in danger. Go back first. It's freezing outside. Zhang Yi folded his arms and shivered. Lu Dahe nodded, hugged his two brothers, and went to on the other side. As soon as Zhang Yi returned, he was blocked by Zhu Yang. Mr. Zhang, did you leave in too hasty? Zhu Yang folded his arms and looked at Zhang Yi calmly, with a bit of weirdness in his eyes. What's wrong? Are there any unresolved problems? Zhang Yi blinked and asked with a smile. Zhu Yang put down his arm and said, come here with me. I think we need to have a good chat about how to deal with this batch of passengers who are coming on board later. She called the stowaways the last passengers on board. It was my fault for not saying hello to you before. But now that you have accepted them, you have to find a way to place them properly. So I hope you can solve their food problem. After all, it is not appropriate to keep the passengers on the bottom cabin without enough food. Zhang Yi looked surprised and pointed at his nose in astonishment. Me? No, Miss Zhu, you must never make such a joke with me. Zhang Yi waved his hands repeatedly. Don't you ever tell me that you brought people on board but didn't know how to solve their dietary problems? Zhang Yi shook his head decisively. This is impossible. It is impossible for a smart woman like you, Miss Zhu, to make such a stupid mistake. You must be kidding me. This is no fun for you. Zhu Yang froze on the spot. Her expression was a little flustered. In fact, when she helped the stowaways board the ship out of kindness, she really didn't consider how those people would eat and drink. Just stuff them into the cabin and let them live with the people in the lower cabin. She, the eldest daughter of the Zhu family, had she ever worried about food, rice, oil and salt? Chapter 838. This matter has nothing to do with me. Zhang Yi pointed at Zhu Yang. You, don't make such a joke with me. I believe you have already planned it, right? Zhu Yang coughed twice softly. Ahem, of course. She looked up at Zhang Yi and said with a smile, don't I have you here? You are the majestic captain of the investigation team. I know your abilities. With the space system, you can carry many things with you. I believe you can easily handle it with just food for more than 20 people. Zhang Yi sneered in his heart. I will work with you to be a good person, and let me take care of all the trouble. It's a good thing you're not my leader, otherwise I wouldn't be able to make you angry to death. On the surface, Zhang Yi showed a helpless expression. No, Miss Zhu, it's really boring if you play like this. My space is only the size of a small warehouse, with everything in it. Just the weapons, ammunition, fuel and other supplies needed by the Jimpfeng take up more than half of the space. As for food, I did bring a lot of food. But you also know that our voyage lasted 4 months. There were no supplies along the way, and now there are more than 100 people on the ship. Don't you think about it? Why do I plan so carefully on everyone's food, and even provide it according to everyone's status? It's because there is not much left in stock. How much? Not much. Zhang Yi shook his head. So I really can't help you this time. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that I'm too willing, but not strong enough. Zhu Yang's eyes widened. Are you really lying? She began to feel a little anxious, because the best way she could think of was to rely on Zhang Yi. Otherwise, where would she find food for those 20 people on this vast sea of ice? It's still close to 2 months before I can go back. Even if we calculate it, based on 1 pound of grain per person per day, it would be 6,000 to 7,000 pounds. Zhang Yi said calmly, I'm not a kind-hearted person. If I had a way, I would have loved to save the entire Yanliu island. But do you really have no idea how much our supplies are consumed every day? Zhu Yang's face was full of embarrassment. It was her first mission to travel so far, so she had no experience. Then what should we do? We can't let them starve every day, right? Zhang Yi took 2 steps back and waved his hand. You shouldn't say what should we do, but what should I do? You brought this person here, and you will have full authority to solve the next problem. To avoid suspicion, I will not participate. Zhang Yi raised his hands to indicate that he would not interfere and then slowly left with a smile. As soon as he turned around, the smile on Zhang Yi's face turned into a sneer. In fact, there are still a lot of supplies in his different dimension. After all, that is enough to supply the entire shelter for 200 years. But why should he use his own things to favor this stupid woman like Zhu Yunk? Let her solve the troubles caused by her overflowing holy mother heart. Zhu Zheng also said that this time Zhu Yunk was asked to come over to practice. As long as Zhang Yi doesn't take action, there will be chaos in the bottom cabin sooner or later. By that time, there will definitely be a very interesting ending. When Zhang Yi thought of that scene, his smile became even brighter. He hummed a song and walked slowly to his room. On the opposite side of darkness is light, and behind the light is shadow. Who has the right to define justice and evil? Zhang Yi became the hands-off shopkeeper and was too lazy to get involved in Zhu Yunk's mess. This immediately gave her a hard time. For the first time in her life, the eldest daughter of the Zhu family began to worry about what she was eating. But in the vast sea, where else could she get food besides relying on Zhang Yi? But Zhang Yi clearly refused. At the beginning, she was the one who let people on the boat without Zhang Yi's permission, and she ignored him. Zhu Yunk frowned and had to go back to the room to slowly think of a solution. After returning, she told her temporary best friend SYNOPSIS about the matter. After SYNOPSIS heard this, she immediately said angrily, "That person surnamed Zhang is going too far. Isn't this making things difficult for you? How can you, the eldest daughter of the Tang Zhu family, have the heart to deal with such messy things for them? I see that he has not clearly laid out his position at all. You are just too good to him, otherwise relying on your uncle's relationship." Zhu Yunk interrupted her. Okay, I'm not someone who likes to bully others. She was too embarrassed to tell SYNOPSIS that she couldn't control Zhang Yi at all. After all, coming from an official family, one still needs face. But now without his nod, how can I get so much food for the more than 20 people in the bottom cabin? SYNOPSIS counted on her fingers. That's not all. In addition to food, there will be shortages of other daily necessities. Wipes, brown sugar, medicine, toilet paper, fresh water are not enough. Zhu Yunk's head ached more and more as he thought about it, and he let out a long sigh. Suddenly, SYNOPSIS had an idea and thought of a good idea. "Yes, I have a good idea." Zhu Yunk immediately looked at her. "What can you do?" SYNOPSIS smiled and said, "I have a way to solve the food problem first." Under Zhu Yunk's questioning, she did not hold back and expressed her thoughts. "It's hard to talk to Zhang, but the other people on the ship have to give you face, right? HMPH, I see that the crew members are eating a lot of food all day long, and they have to throw the unfinished meals into the sea. It's such a waste. Why don't we call on them to save some food? Everyone only needs to take out 1/3 of the food and donate it to the people in the bottom cabin. It will definitely satisfy their food and clothing." Zhu Yunk rolled his eyes and couldn't help but think to himself, this is indeed a good idea. Zhang Yi has always been very generous to the people around him. The crew's drinking standards are very high. Not only is the food abundant, but everyone is provided with the same portion as an ordinary person for a day and a half. This also results in their living standard being extremely luxurious compared to the people in the middle and lower cabins, and there are a lot of leftovers that need to be thrown away every day. Zhu Yunk's eyes flashed with pride. She had thought about it and would go to Laoshan tomorrow to make this request. Thinking about her status, she just went to ask for some food, so those people had to give her some face. Although this amount is not much, it can still maintain the basic survival of the more than 20 people in the bottom cabin. This can be regarded as solving the most important contradiction at present. "Zhang Yi, I'll let you see if I can solve the problems on the ship." Zhu Yunk snorted softly, and his heart felt temporarily relieved suddenly. Chapter 839 A Wonderful Plan. Early the next morning, Zhu Yunk took advantage of the mealtime to find Laoshan. "Mr. Shan, can you come over and have a chat? There is something I want to discuss with you." Zhu Yunk called Laoshan over with a smile. Laoshan held a chicken drumstick in his hand and looked puzzled. Zhu Young usually has a coldness in his bones, and even when he smiles at them, he is instinctively distant. But today, she seemed a little deliberately close to him. There is nothing to be diligent about, either a traitor or a thief. Lao Shan murmured in his heart, but still walked over with a smile. Ms. Zhu, what's the matter? Is the food in the morning not to your liking? Lao Shan followed Zhu Young to the corner of the cafeteria, and asked with a smile. He still had to be careful to please the eldest lady of the Zhu family. Zhu Young shook his head, that's not the problem. Although the taste of the food is average, it can still be swallowed. I came to you to ask you to do me a favor. What do you think? You won't refuse to give me this face, right? Facing Zhu Young's questioning look, Lao Shan laughed. Look at what you said. What do you want us to do? Can't we just tell the ship? Isn't it beneath our status to find our subordinates? Zhu Young coughed softly. This matter is not a big deal. There is no need to go through Mr. Zhang. Lao Shan frowned slightly. Then come and let me listen. Zhu Young said, I want to ask you to help me do a good deed. She made her purpose clear. It requires a dozen or so crew members on the ship to save part of their meals every day and then provide it to the stowaways in the bottom cabin. The food you have every day is so rich that you can't finish it. Last time I saw you throwing uneaten rice into the sea. Look, it's a waste to throw it away anyway, so why not take it out and do something good? I will also appreciate your kindness. Zhu Young looked at Lao Shan with a smile. She felt that Lao Shan would definitely agree to her request. After all, this thing is not difficult to do, and it can please the niece of the regional commander, so why wouldn't he do it? But who knew that things would not develop as she imagined? After Lao Shan listened silently, he did not give a reply, but asked, have you discussed this matter with our captain? Zhu Young's expression changed slightly. If Zhang Yi found out, wouldn't she be ridiculed by Zhang Yi? That's why she decided to kill it first, and tell it later, and went directly to Lao Shan to settle the matter. There's no need to disturb Mr. Zhang with this kind of thing. Zhu Young said uncomfortably. When Lao Shan heard what she said, his eyes became playful and his waist straightened. In this case, it will be a little difficult for me to handle. He let out a long sigh, looking troubled. Zhu Young's eyes widened. Why is this so difficult? Just share out the food you can't finish. No matter what, just pick out the things you don't like. What's so difficult about this? Lao Shan explained. The drinking standards for each crew member are specially set by our captain. Ocean voyage itself is a very test of will. The captain was very considerate for us and satisfied us to the maximum extent in terms of food. Only when they have a full meal can the crew work with full energy. Haha, as for the issue of throwing away the food before finishing it, this kind of thing is impossible to say. There is no guarantee that, if you have a bad appetite one day, you can eat less. If you encounter heavy work, you will eat more. If you have a big appetite, if I do as you say, it will be difficult to coordinate the amount of food. Everyone is not eating well, and has no energy to work. It is easy for something to happen on this vast sea. Zhu Young was about to open his mouth to argue. Lao Shan didn't give her a chance and said first, so the standard meal portions are set by the captain after careful consideration. Otherwise, you can discuss it carefully with the captain. If he gives the order, I will dare to change it. Otherwise, I can't make the decision on this kind of thing. Zhu Young never imagined that he could not even command Lao Shan. She was surprised that what Lao Shan said was plausible, but she didn't know how to refute it. Then, is there really no good solution? Zhu Young's tone was almost pleading. When Lao Shan heard this, he didn't dare to really offend Zhu Young to death. He's not Zhang Yi. He doesn't have that much courage. Lao Shan stroked his beard and thought carefully before coming up with a solution. Let's do this. After we finish eating every day, no matter how much the leftover food is, we can collect it and send it to them. This can also give a few people a few bites. Zhu Young rejected this proposal without hesitation. This is absolutely not possible. They are all humans, not animals. How can you let them eat your saliva? Lao Shan smiled and said, Miss Zhu, at this time, human life is worth less than grass. When I suffered in Xianhai City, let alone swill, I also ate sour water. Zhu Young kept shaking his head, unable to accept this approach. This is impossible. There are more than 100 people in the bottom cabin. If some people are given normal food and some are given swill, there will definitely be trouble. Lao Shan sneered and dismissed those stowaways. Maybe they will rush to eat our swill. What's wrong with the swill? Their crew's food standards are first rate. The leftover rice also contains fat meat and chicken bones, which is better than the food in the lower cabin. Didn't you know that in the last century, the people of Silla still like to pick up the garbage thrown by the Colombian soldiers and cook it? It is also euphemistically called troop pot. Refugees can no longer be treated according to ordinary people's standards. Being able to give them something to eat and keep them alive is a great gift. Zhu Young kept shaking his head. No matter how much Lao Shan persuaded him, he would not agree to do this. Lao Shan was helpless. Then there's nothing I can do about it. It's up to you. Zhu Young gritted his teeth and said, wait a minute, if this method doesn't work, I have another method. She thought about it all night yesterday, and she also came up with a wonderful plan. Lao Shan was all ears. Zhu Young pointed to the vast sea and said, we are at sea. In fact, there are many fish in the sea, which are very good ingredients. I want to mobilize everyone to go fishing together and replenish our food warehouse. In this way, we may not only be able to solve the problem of food shortage, but also expand storage. Zhu Young is very proud of his intelligence. Because he had been sailing for so long, Zhang Yi never thought about supplementing his food through sea fishing. However, Lao Shan rejected her proposal without hesitation. Ms. Zhu, this idea is very good, but it can't be realized at all. Zhu Young was unhappy. Why can't it work? Chapter 840, Hitting the Wall, +1. Lao Shan unceremoniously shattered her beautiful fantasy. You spent a lot of money to go out and have fun. Can you do it the same as now? Sea fishing is all done in sea areas rich in aquatic products, and the best bait is used for fishing. But now, look where we are. There are not fish everywhere in the sea. If you don't choose a special place, it's normal for you to fish for a whole day without seeing anything. Besides, fishing requires bait. Do you want us to bring out food for you to use? Lao Shan pointed outside. The Jinfeng was advancing rapidly. The ship is so fast and the wind and waves are so strong. No one can stay out all the time. If you don't believe it, you can go out with a fishing rod and try it. If you can stand firm on the deck, you are considered good. Zhu Young's face turned blue and red when Lao Shan said it. The clever plan she came up with was a complete joke in the eyes of the old sailor. This won't work, that won't work either. What should we do to solve the food problem? Zhu Young said angrily. Lao Shan put his hand in front of his mouth and coughed several times. If not, he would have laughed on the spot. Difficult? Then don't do it. Who asked you to bring yourself into trouble and meddle in other people's business? Who do you blame now? I really thought the food fell from the sky. I still say the same thing. If you really want to solve this problem, you can only go to the captain to discuss it. Lao Shan and Zhu Young said goodbye and went back to eat. He came to the dining table, where the sailors were sitting, and picked up a large bowl of rice. There were large basins of chicken, duck, and fish on the table. Although they are all frozen food, they are still very delicious. After being cooked by Zi Changming, the Skylark became more and more angry as he watched. She didn't even want to eat at this time. At this time, Su Nuangxi also came over. She held an iron bowl of food in her hand and said to Zhu Young, "Senior sister, how is the matter going? Have the people on the ship agreed to distribute the food to the people in the lower cabin?" Zhu Young shook his head. No. Su Nuangxi glanced at them angrily. The crew members there were laughing, eating, and drinking, and chatting. They were living a very leisurely and happy life. There is really no sympathy at all. "Senior sister, let's go and give our meals to those poor people who can't eat. Her meals are all specially made and are hard to swallow, so it doesn't hurt to give them away. At most, we can just eat and drink with Zhu Young at noon." Zhu Young was also furious at this time and had no appetite at all. She felt that Lao Shan and others, like Zhang Yi, were too cold-blooded. But she is different. She is a high-quality talent who has received higher education from the West and knows how to respect others. The more she is in such an environment, the more glorious and great she must be. Only in this way can she highlight her superiority and set off the insignificance of Zhang Yi and others. Thinking of this, she felt that the food in her hands became sacred. It was like a liturgical Eucharist. Wait a minute, I'll go find Zhao Ke. Zhu Yang felt that the food for 2 people was too little, but Zhao Ke gave her the impression that she was a person she could communicate with. So she wanted Zhao Ke to join them in their charity. Soon, the 2 of them arrived outside Zhang Yi and Zhao Ke's room with firm steps. Boom boom boom. Zhao Ke. Boom boom boom. Zhao Ke. Boom boom boom. Zhao Ke. After knocking 3 times in a row, the door opened. Zhao Ke was wearing a black nightgown, half of her body exposed from the crack in the door. Her silky hair fell along her shoulders and fell on her tall chest, which was indescribably charming. It's early in the morning. If you don't have a good meal, why did you come to see me? Zhu Yang glanced inside the room through the crack in the door and did not see Zhang Yi, but she knew that Zhang Yi was inside. Zhu Yang deliberately said loudly, Lisa and I are going to rescue those poor refugees and share our food with them. Do you want to come together? What? Zhao Ke looked at the rice bowls they were holding with an expression of laughter on her face, feeling a little speechless. Do you really want to go there? Yes. Do you want to come together? I believe you are a caring person. Zhu Yang said deliberately. She came to Zhao Ke with another idea. The food that Zhao Ke and Zhang Yi ate was different from everyone else's. It was brought by Zhang Yi himself. So when Zhao Ke gave the food away, it was equivalent to Zhang Yi giving it away. This can open a hole for Zhang Yi to lower his guard against stowaways. Zhao Ke smiled and said, I just finished eating. Ah. That's it. Zhu Yang and Su Nuangxi both looked regretful. Zhao Ke pointed to the stainless steel rice bowl in their hands. But I'm curious, how many people can you share this meal with? Su Nuangxi snorted. No matter how little it is, it's still a heartfelt gesture. It shows our kindness and humanity. Zhao Ke nodded, smiling. The idea is very good. I'm just a little worried. When the time comes, there will be more of them, and they will only have so little to eat, so they will easily fight. As soon as these words came out, Zhu Yang and Su Nuangxi looked at each other. Yes, why didn't they consider this issue? But soon, Zhu Yang found an excuse for himself. There was Zhang Yi in the room, and she wouldn't give Zhang Yi a chance to laugh at her. No, the people on Yanliu Island are of high quality, and will not engage in looting. Zhao Ke nodded. Okay then, I wish you complete success. Zhu Yang and Su Nuangxi turned around and left, heading towards the bottom cabin. Zhao Ke closed the door, walked to Zhang Yi and sat down. At this time, Zhang Yi was sitting on a sofa seat, using a satellite phone to chat with people in the shelter. But Zhu Yang's voice was so loud that it was hard not to hear it. 2 stupid women are going to do stupid things again. Zhao Ke smiled slightly, charming and charming. There is no way. They are all the kind of women who have never experienced the hardships of life. So it is inevitable that they will be naive. Zhang Yi said calmly, whether they are naive or not has nothing to do with me. It's just that I don't like 2 self-proclaimed flies buzzing in my ears all the time. He raised his head and showed a playful smile towards Zhao Ke. Then let's take this opportunity to teach them a lesson. Here, Zhu Yang and Su Nuangxi have arrived. They found the crew to open the door for them and went to deliver food to the poor refugees in the lower cabin. Seeing this, the crew member kindly reminded, you 2 ladies, you'd better be careful. Zhu Yang said, it's okay. Chapter 841 Fighting. Seeing Zhu Yang's persistence, the crew had no choice but to open the hatch. The space on the bottom cabin is not small, but as a warehouse, each room is relatively large. Usually dozens of people live in one room. The light is not very sufficient. The lights are turned on at night, and during the day there is only a faint light coming from the high windows. As soon as the hatch opened, the sound immediately attracted everyone's attention. Since the last disturbance in the bottom cabin, Lao Xian has strengthened his management here. Usually the door is never opened unless it is time to put out food. So as soon as the door opened, people from all the rooms popped their heads out to check. Zhu Young and Sunu Anxi walked down the stairs and said as they walked, "Don't be afraid, we are here to deliver food to you. If anyone hasn't eaten today, come here quickly." The two of them had gentle smiles on their faces, resembling the Virgin Mary. But as soon as they finished speaking, a large number of people rushed over from their respective rooms and hurriedly grabbed the food in their hands. Too many people. Even though they didn't push each other intentionally, the people in the lower cabin still fought hard for the 2 portions of food. As a result, Zhu Young and Sunu Anxi were knocked to the ground. Others couldn't take care of them, because if they were a step too late, not a grain of rice would be left. There were more and more people, and Zhu Young and Sunu Anxi were pushed to the ground. Many feet stepped on them, causing them to scream in pain. Fortunately, the crew member who opened the door did not leave at this time. Seeing this scene, he yelled, "Everyone, stop it, or I'll beat you to death." He pulled the bolt with a click. This familiar voice was like clockwork on everyone, causing them to immediately stop what they were doing and then raise their hands. However, a few children took advantage of their small size and squeezed into the crowd. They threw themselves on the ground and desperately put the rice that fell on the ground into their mouths. "You bunch of bastards, you want to rebel? Get out of here." The crew member came down fiercely with a gun and then quickly helped Zhu Young and Sunu Anxi up. "I told you, this place is very dangerous. They are so hungry now that they want to eat people. Both of you are persons of high status. Please try to come to places like this as little as possible in the future." There was a hint of playfulness on the crew members' lips. Zhu Young and Sunu Anxi were so frightened by what just happened that their faces turned pale. Although it was only a short 10 seconds, they were stepped on by countless feet. If it had been a little longer at night, they might have been trampled to death. The two of them didn't care about talking about the situation anymore and fled from the bottom cabin in a panic. The crew member showed a ferocious expression again, pointed his gun at them and said, "You are a bunch of bastards. You are ungrateful for bringing you food. You deserve to starve to death." The people in the cabin did not dare to reply and lowered their heads to express fear. The crew member snorted coldly, left along the stairs, and then locked the hatch with a huge chain. The moment the cabin door closed, the fighting and yelling in the cabin started again. Zhu Young and Sunu Anxi left in a very embarrassed state. They did not dare to raise their heads and look around for fear of being seen in their embarrassment. The two had no choice but to return to Zhu Young's room in a hurry. As soon as she entered the room, Sunu Anxi couldn't help but burst into tears. The temperature in the room activated the nerve function of Zhu Young's skin, and she felt severe pain in many places on her body. If you look closely, you can see that there are bruises everywhere and there are many shoe marks on the clothes. "How can they do this?" Zhu Young gasped in pain and said with a mixture of grief and anger. Sunu Anxi burst into tears and cried, "They are really miserable. They were good people when they were on the island, but now they have become like wild beasts for a little food. If they had enough food, they wouldn't be like this." Zhu Young glanced at her angrily, feeling angry in his heart. Even though he was almost trampled to death, he still had the mood to care about others. But after thinking about it, Sunu Anxi's logic did make some sense. "What, did you have enough food when you were on the island?" Zhu Young asked breathlessly. Sunu Anxi nodded slowly. "Usually men go out to look for food, and we girls don't go out." And her voice stopped suddenly, and her face suddenly became extremely ugly. Needless to say, she must have been thinking of Yamada Masanami. But what should we do next? This is the biggest problem right now. Zhu Young sat on the bed. She found painkillers and bandages from the medicine box. She simply applied medicine to herself and then bandaged it. On the other hand, they are worrying about solving the food problem for the people in the bottom cabin. Sunu Anxi hesitated and couldn't explain why. Where did she come from? At this moment, Tommy was woken up by the voices of two people and started crying again. The two of them had headaches, and Sunu Anxi hurried over to comfort the child. "I don't know what's going on with Tommy lately. He likes to cry a lot, and his sleep quality is very poor. He wakes up all the time. Hey, maybe all children are like this." The two of them focused on taking care of Tommy again, and this matter consumed them almost all their energy. As for the food issue for the passengers in the lower cabin, they temporarily forgot about it. In fact, in Zhu Young's subconscious mind, he felt that, even if he ignored it for the time being, nothing serious would happen. Anyway, people won't really starve to death if they skip a few meals. At this time, on the bottom cabin side, a fierce battle just broke out over those 2 boxes of lunch. At first it was just the collision and friction caused by snatching. But when they bumped into each other, the anger grew, and it turned into a fight. Many people were beaten until their noses were bruised, and their faces were swollen, and some even bled. But when they asked the crew outside for help, they turned a deaf ear. Just kidding, they were all injured by themselves trying to commit suicide. How could they ask doctors how to treat them? Just leave them to their own devices. Everyone returned to their rooms dejectedly, licking each other's wounds. However, many people unanimously looked at the deepest room inside. The last people to board the ship, the stowaways, lived there. At the beginning, they did not know that there was someone stowaway on the boat. So I just blamed the harshness of Zhang Yi and other people on board for the problem of not having enough to eat every day. But now the truth came out, and they realized that their food had been stolen by the thief. They couldn't eat enough because parasites appeared in the cabin. The resentment was suddenly ignited, especially when it's time to put away the meal. This emotion becomes particularly intense. This was not the first time they fought today. They started fighting at breakfast and again at lunch. Chapter 842. In the lower cabin, restlessness is slowly spreading. When everyone is hungry, they happen to find parasites that steal their food around. The emotion cannot be described in any other way except hatred. It's all those damn stowaways. If it weren't for them, we would be doing fine. Where can I be like now, not having enough to eat, and being beaten up? It would have been better if they hadn't come on board. Speaking of which, it seems that the woman named Zhu put them there on purpose. Damn it, that's a bitch too. It's all her fault for causing us so much suffering. Shh, keep your voice down. After all, we have to watch their faces now. Don't be heard, or you will be thrown into the sea to feed the sharks. Although people were angry in their hearts, they did not dare to take any further action. After all, there are armed forces such as Zhang Yi in charge. If they dare to start a large-scale fight again, they may be thrown into the sea to feed the sharks. But can you just endure it like this? They were frustrated and panicked. On the fisherman's gang side, Lu Dahei, Zhang Yi, and Yu Gang were sitting in a corner, hiding themselves in the darkness. Lu Dahei's fierce eyes shone as sharp as a knife in the shadows. After the end of the world, they had already killed people, and their ferocious aura made ordinary people afraid to approach them. Lu Dahei looked in the direction of the stowaway guest room with gloomy eyes. We have to find a way to deal with these dogs. Otherwise we will never get the food we deserve. Lu Dahei said coldly. Zhang Yi and Yu Gang looked at him. Brother, this matter is difficult to handle. This is on a ship. If we do anything at will, we may be punished by the people above. Lu Dahei took a deep breath and punched the bedboard angrily. I know too. You don't need to remind me. Lu Dahei was filled with anger. If possible, he really wanted to have a serious fight with those people. However, it is very difficult to achieve this goal. Relations between other passengers on board were average. The stowaways seemed to realize that something was wrong with their situation, so they gathered together and became the most powerful force in the bottom cabin. They are like male elephants without tusks, but they are the most aggressive. Dissatisfaction spread throughout the lower cabin, but no one resented Zhang Yi and the crew. They have a better target, and that is the stowaways. At this time, in the room where the stowaways were, the hatch was locked tightly and blocked with debris from the inside. Among this group of people, there are people from many countries, but most of them can speak fluent British, and some are proficient in Chinese. There were 22 people in total. The atmosphere in the room was extremely solemn at this time, and everyone gathered near a bed in the middle, and among them were 3 men. It can be seen from their positions that the leader is a man in his 50s with long grey hair sitting on the bed. He comes from the country of Marais and is a real estate tycoon who started out in a gang named Zaku. And next to him were 2 other people. A man with a slim figure, dark skin, and a height of over 1.9 meters is a Sanda athlete named Elode. There is another who is only about 1.7 meters tall, has wild hair, and brown skin. He is a Muay Thai boxer named Yamat. These 3 people are now the 3 leaders of the stowaway gang. From the very beginning, when they boarded the ship, such a force was secretly formed. The purpose is to have the power to resist if someone discovers it one day in the future. The room was dimly lit, and Zaku held a grass root pulled from a mat in his mouth. He was a heavy smoker, but before boarding the ship, everyone was strictly inspected and weapons, communication equipment and even tobacco were confiscated. This is the only way he can satisfy his addiction to cigarettes. Mr. Zaku, the atmosphere on this ship is very wrong now. I think those pigs want to attack us. What should we do? Elo frowned and asked Zakudeo worriedly. There were more than 100 people in the bottom cabin, and they numbered less than 1/5. Now that the identity of the stowaways has been exposed, others must resent them for taking away the food that belongs to them. Once this emotion breaks out, and a fight breaks out, they will be outnumbered. The other stowaways in the cabin also looked worried, fearing that they would follow in the footsteps of those neon people. Unexpectedly, after Zaku heard this, he glanced at Elode with a raised brow, and then laughed. Hehe. Why, are you scared? Zaku asked with a smile, his face full of calmness. As a famous gang leader in Merace, he has seen all kinds of big scenes. He had kept a low profile before, because he didn't want to attract the attention of Zhang Yi and others. But now his identity has been exposed. And Zhang Yi also made it clear that he didn't want to care about what happened in the cabin below. Then, he will no longer restrain himself. Upon seeing this, Elode quickly complimented, Mr. Zaku, what are your plans? We all listen to you. A group of wallflowers had no idea of their own, so they had no choice but to follow Zaku. Yes, Mr. Zaku, tell us what we should do. As long as we survive, we will listen to you. Zaku narrowed his eyes. Well, starting from today, I will let them know who is the real king in this cabin. Wait until it's time to put on the meal in the evening. Zichangmeng came over carrying a rice pail as usual. Although the living conditions in the bottom cabin were the worst, Zhang Yi did not let anyone treat them like livestock. Food is still provided based on the number of people. The food in each room is strictly separated, more or less according to the number of people. Zichangming walked down, put the food in buckets, and then shouted, dinner is ready. In each room, people responsible for collecting food came over and wanted to take away the food in their respective rooms. But at this moment, everyone heard footsteps coming from the back of the cabin. Crash! Everyone in the aisle looked over subconsciously. Then they saw a burst of dark clouds walking quickly towards this side. Zaku put his hands in his pockets and walked at the front with an expressionless face. His left and right hands, Elode and Yamat, followed with fierce expressions on both sides. At this time, the stowaways completely disguised themselves in private, especially the terrifying aura from Zaku's gang, which immediately made many people retreat in fear. Lu Dahei was responsible for fetching meals in their room. Seeing the appearance of Zaku and others, he had a premonition that something was not good. Why do you bring so many people here to get a meal? He asked cautiously. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 843. Lu Dahei just asked a question. Unexpectedly, what was waiting for him was a fierce sneak kick from Muay Thai fighter Yamat. Although Lu Dahei's physical fitness was good, he was hit so hard by a professional Muay Thai boxer that he straightened up like a shrimp and fell to the ground groaning in pain. Zaku came over, picked up a stack of dinner plates, and then aimed at Lu Dahei's head and smashed it down. Bang, 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 bang. Lu Dahei's head was smashed and bleeding. His eyes were filled with stars, his ears were ringing, and he was already fainting. Zaku didn't stop, but continued to hit his head hard. He didn't hold back at all. He looked like he wanted to kill someone. That kind of ruthless action made everyone present so scared that they dared not speak. Ron Lei and Yu Gang heard the noise and ran out. When they saw Lu Dahei being beaten, they cursed and rushed forward. As a result, Elode and Yamat came over and fought with them directly. Although the two fishermen have good physical fitness, they are still far behind professional fighters. What's more, the stowaways also had other helpers, and fists and feet rained down on them. Soon the three brothers were beaten so badly that they fell to the ground like dead dogs. You don't fight anymore. Some people couldn't stand it any longer, so they bravely came over to dissuade them. If we continue to fight, we will alert the people above. After hearing this, Zaku stopped. He threw the dinner plate in his hand on the ground and spat on Lu Dahei's head. Then he put his hands on his waist and said to everyone with great arrogance, "Starting from today, the order in this cabin will be re-established. I have the final say from here on. We have to eat first when the food is delivered every day. Remember, these are the rules." Everyone was frightened by the atrocities committed by the stowaways just now. Although they were very angry inside, no one was willing to stand out and be the leader at this time. Zaku signaled to his two men, and they immediately walked over greedily, selected 2 barrels of the best food, and took them away. Some people were very excited when they saw how powerful Zaku was, feeling as if they had huge power and could control other people in the cabin at will. So he walked over and wanted to get more food. However, Zaku gave him a cold look, indicating that he should not do this. The man stepped back angrily. But today, they have harvested twice as much food as usual and can finally have a full meal. Zaku stepped over Lu Dahei and walked to their room arrogantly. There were more than 100 people in other rooms around, but no one dared to stand up and say a word. It wasn't until the stowaways disappeared into the corridor that anyone looked at the remaining buckets of food. The food that was not much was already taken away by the stowaways. In other words, the remaining food was even less edible. In the past, they had some kind of tacit agreement not to snatch these foods. But this time the situation has changed. There are quick hands and slow hands, and no one dares to gamble. Not knowing who started it, almost everyone in the room rushed towards the remaining food. Roaring, wailing, and violence spread wantonly throughout the corridor. Lu Dahei and the other 2 were beaten until they were almost unconscious. In the end, several of their fisherman friends tried their best to drag them out of the crowd, preventing them from being trampled to death. People in other rooms did not dare to take action against the ferocious Zaku and others. Instead, they started fighting among themselves over the food. Stowaway gang. No one expected that today would go so smoothly. There were more than 20 of them, and they suppressed more than 100 other people. I watched helplessly as they picked out the best food and beat people, but they didn't even dare to fart. Zaku sat on the bed and ate a big meal. The others also had a full meal for the first time. Their trust in Zaku became deeper and deeper, and they strengthened their belief in following Zaku. Elode held his job and walked over to Zaku and complimented him. "Mr. Zaku, you are so awesome. Just by relying on your momentum, you can scare others into not moving." Hearing this, Zaku sneered proudly. "Those people are all sheep. As long as you are crow enough, they won't have the guts to resist." He raised his fist as he spoke. "To go out and fight, you rely on momentum and brains. No matter how big the sheep are, they don't dare to resist. When they encounter lions, they will just scatter and run away. Then they wait for the lions to finish hunting, and they are glad that they are not the one being preyed on. Then they forget about the danger and continue to eat grass happily." The crowd took it for granted. Maybe they can figure it out, but how many people can do it? The younger brother who had planned to take more food asked in confusion. "Now that we've scared them, why don't we take all the food away and leave some for them?" Zaku looked at the others. Some of them were thoughtful and seemed to understand what Zaku was doing. But most people held their stomachs. Obviously this meal could not make up for the long-term hunger. Hunger made them all want more food. Zaku explained, "Don't push the guys at the bottom into a corner. Even the people in our gang usually leave a way for others to escape. Otherwise, even a sheep would not know what it would do after being cornered." But, he laughed sinisterly, "as long as I leave them a little hope of survival, they won't have the courage to resist me." The people around him looked enlightened. "Mr. Zaku, you are really amazing. With you here, we won't have to worry about having enough to eat in the future. Fortunately, we have a big man like you to lead us." Zaku sat cross-legged on the bed, enjoying the compliments of the people around him. "We can't be too careless. At least there are still unstable factors." His eyes slowly looked upward, as if through the deck, he could see the middle cabin and upper cabin above. The armed forces above are currently something we cannot afford to offend. Try not to make things too big, and don't kill people if you can. This way we can reach the other side safely, and get a chance to survive. Everything he did was actually a gamble. The bet is that Zhang Yi will not care. Zaku is pretty accurate when it comes to judging people. Zhang Yi maintained a sense of indifference towards these people on the ship from beginning to end. Unless things got serious and made Zhang Yi feel upset, he didn't care about the life or death of the people in the bottom cabin. Everything depends on fate. What we can do now is to give it a try. Only by showing enough ferocious power will others be afraid. Chapter 844. Lu Dahei, Zhang Yi and Yu Gang were beaten to death with their heads bruised and bleeding. The people on the ship saw that they were pitiful and planned to ask for help and let the doctors on the ship treat them. But he was quickly stopped by others. Are you crazy? If the people above know that there is such a chaos here, who will be responsible if something goes wrong? But it's obvious that those who smuggled in made the move first, so we are taking advantage of it. What's the point? Haha, do you think those people will care about our life and death? From the very beginning, the captain named Zhang knew that we were running short of food, so he had no intention of taking care of it. We are lucky that someone can give us a ride, so don't cause trouble. What if we all get thrown off the boat if we piss off someone? The people on the ship, in the spirit of doing more than doing less, firmly disagreed with finding a doctor for Lu Dahei and the three of them. In addition to the stowaways, most of the people on board were Huaxu nationals and overseas Chinese. In their bones, they have the fine qualities that have been passed down from Huaxu Kingdom for 5,000 years. They care about things that have nothing to do with themselves and do not die for their Taoist friends. After the persuasion of these people, the fishermen who originally planned to help Lu Dahei and the others find a doctor also hesitated. They also knew that the doctor was Zhang Yi's woman. How could such a noble person come to this dirty place to treat a few fishermen? Brothers, it's not that we don't want to help you. We also have difficulties, so you can just wish yourself well. Hey. Fishermen who Dacheng sighed helplessly. There were a few people in their room who knew a little about emergency treatment, and they simply bandaged them with cloth. And the rest is up to God to arrange it. Maybe it was God who was pitiful, or maybe it was because the three people were dying, but they all showed signs of improvement after lying there all night. In fact, this is not because they are lucky, but Zaku was measured when he took action, and veteran gang members all had their own unique skills. It looks like the attack is extremely fierce, as if it can kill others, but in fact it avoids the vital point. Zaku didn't dare to make a big deal out of things, he just wanted to establish his authority. But even so, Lu Dahei suffered a slight concussion and had a headache that made him unable to get out of bed. Zhang Yi and Yu Gang were slightly better than him, but they still hurt all over. Seeing that they were still alive, the people around them expressed some concern, and no other expressions. Everyone is hungrier, too busy taking care of themselves, and not in the mood to care about others. But at this time, the flame of revenge in Lu Dahei's heart had burned fiercely, engulfing him whole. I don't even know how long I can live, so why should I let you bully me? Seeing the arrogant and domineering gang of stowaways in the bottom cabin, Lu Dahei felt an evil fire rising in his heart. This evil fire is not just directed at them. It was directed at the surrounding group of passengers who were extremely cowardly and did not know how to unite. TMD, I will come forward to help you seek justice, and you will just hide behind and act like a coward. You bastards, I can't spare you. But he can't resist now. Because his injury was still serious, and he was very hungry, he had to eat first. Therefore, he pretended to be scared, and did not dare to continue to go against Zaku. That night, it was already deep, and the sound of waves lapping against the hull outside was so loud that it even covered up the snoring one after another in the cabin. Lu Dahei secretly woke up the two brothers. Come here, I have something to discuss with you. Zhang Yi and Yu Gang have been brothers with Lu Dahei for many years. They didn't need Lu Dahei to say a word. They just saw Lu Dahei's scary eyes and knew what he wanted to do. The three people secretly got up from the bed and ran to the toilet. Brother, if you have anything to do, just say it directly. Are you going to kill those smugglers? Zhang Yi has a bald head, a messy beard, and a fierce expression on his face. They had all killed people on Yanliu Island, and were very courageous. They had been beaten up by stowaways before, and they couldn't bear it. Lu Dahei said coldly, these tides have made us unable to eat enough, and now they are sitting on our heads to shit. I can't stand them anymore. I must kill them. Zhang Yi was so happy that he almost couldn't hold back his voice. Okay, I've wanted to fuck him for a long time. Damn it, if I don't kill him, the fire in my heart won't go away. I have decided to change my way of life. But you gang asked, how to deal with him? He has so many people in his hands, just a few of us can't defeat him. Do we have to rely on those weaklings on the ship? Lu Dahei's eyes became fierce. Haha, them? Whoever wins will they help? It's totally unreliable. The two looked puzzled. What should we do? Lu Dahei's sinister eyes were like a poisonous snake. The people he hated were Zaku's group of stowaways, and even more, so the passengers who he stood up for but abandoned him. I have an idea. Just listen. He lowered his voice and told the two of them his plan. After hearing this, the two of them had a look of astonishment on their faces. Is this possible? Do you really have to do this? Will something happen? Lu Dahei snorted coldly. If you are not ruthless, you will not have a stable footing. They forced me to do this. Damn it, they didn't dare to fart when we were beaten, and now I'm being polite to them. The three of them were not good friends. When Lu Dahei said this, the other two people immediately made up their minds. MD, done it. A good death is better than a bad life. At noon the next day, it was time to distribute meals again. The cabins in the middle and upper decks are also calm and enjoy their high quality meals. Zhu Yunk and Su Nuangxi, on the other hand, were busy taking care of their children, and had forgotten about the matters in the lower cabin. When the two saw Tommy crying, they realized that the child might be sick, so they had to find Zhao Ke for help. Zhao Ke checked Tommy and just took a look at his hygienic conditions to understand what was going on. Diapers should be changed and washed frequently. Baby skin is very delicate, and bacterial infections can occur if you are not careful. Zhu Yunk and Su Nuangxi looked at each other. After taking care of their children for more than 10 days, they have gradually lost their patience. At first, I could hardly control my child's good temper. People who have never raised children will not understand the pain. He will always want to be held and will cry when he is hungry, pees, or has a bowel movement, and no matter how much he is persuaded, he will not get better. I often wake up in the middle of the night when I fall asleep. In order to take care of my children, it is difficult to get a good sleep. Zhu Yunk and Su Nuangxi took turns, and both got dark circles under their eyes. The two of them were so exhausted that they wished they could just ignore everything and just let go of everything. But the trouble was brought on board by Zhu Yunk. Unless the eldest lady, who claimed to be a kind-hearted woman, strangled the child to death, she could only endure all this until landing more than a month later. Chapter 845. It's time to put away the meal. This time, the stowaway gang came out a little later, but no one else dared to take action, but quietly looked at the end of the corridor. After a while, Zaku walked slowly towards this side with a coat draped over his shoulders and the roots of the straw mat in his mouth. Behind him, as usual, were a large group of people from the stowaway gang. Seeing everyone's docile appearance, Zaku was very satisfied. As before, his men stepped forward and picked out the two best portions of food. Others didn't even have the courage to approach them, but waited for them to leave before grabbing the biggest bucket of food. Nowadays, the distribution system has completely turned into snatching. With the first person who disrupts order, everyone else loses their collective morality. This is the broken window effect. Once someone can benefit from breaking the rules will only restrict the weak and incompetent. The weak follow the rules, the strong create new rules. After Zaku left with the smugglers, Lu Dahei winked at the two brothers. They took out a long and thin object from their arms. It was a dagger made by grinding the tip of a toothbrush. Cleaning items like toothbrushes were not searched strictly at first. After all, if you really want to kill someone, even a pair of socks can be used as a murder weapon. Lu Dahei once served in a prison cell, so he knew very well how powerful this thing was. The three people took the lead and walked towards the remaining rice pails. Seeing this, other people around them rushed over and tried to snatch it from them. Lu Dahei grabbed a man in his 40s and inserted a toothbrush into his cheek with his backhand. PFFT. The sharp end of the toothbrush pierced his mouth. Although this thing was sharp, it was not as good as a knife. Because of this, Lu Dahei had to use more force. It also caused greater harm to the middle-aged man. He screamed in pain. Lu Dahei, however, had a murderous look on his face. He grabbed his neck and punched him twice in the throat. The middle-aged man's neck immediately turned red and he fell to the ground. When other people around him saw this, their first reaction was astonishment. Because in the past, the fishermen like Lu Dahei got along pretty well with them. It even makes people feel that this big and thick man is very righteous. Even before everyone decided to seek justice from Zhang Yi, it was Lu Dahei who was the leader. It was such a person who suddenly became vicious and attacked other people, which caught everyone by surprise. Lu Dahei, what are you doing? You are crazy. A businessman in the same room saw this and angrily accused him. Lu Dahei turned his head. The toothbrush in his hand was wet and dripping with blood. The blood was all over his arms and cheeks, making him look particularly ferocious. From now on, after their group of people take the food will be under my control. Lu Dahei slowly swept the crowd with the bloody toothbrush in his hand. His two brothers Zhang Yi and Yu Gang were also holding toothbrushes, although the tip didn't have much edge. But no one would doubt that, if it penetrated the neck, it could still take away a person's life. Lu Dahei, what are you doing? We are all compatriots. What is the difference between what you are doing and those who smuggle across the border? A man shouted heartbrokenly. Lu Dahei cursed rudely. What the hell did you do to me? You guys are just worthless and need to be punished. You just watched when I was being beaten. Now that I understand, I can't take you for granted. People watch. If anyone disobeys me, I will kill him first. The toothbrush tips in the hands of the three people were pointed at one angry person after another. But these guys didn't dare to fight against Zaku and others when Lu Dahei took the lead. How could he have the courage to go against Lu Dahei and the others at this time? Everyone subconsciously stepped back. They secretly looked around, eager in their hearts for a hero to step forward and help them defeat the three of Lu Dahei. However, no one stood up to be a hero. They all chose to be turtles. These people all have a certain identity. There are experts in a certain scientific field, bosses of large companies, professors in universities, and the royal family of a small country. They have a noble status and feel that their lives are worth more than ordinary people. They are very smart and never stand out. But if people like this get together, the end result will just be that everyone swallows their anger. At the beginning, the only people who could stand up to help them take the lead were three fishermen with low levels of education and only passionate people. Lu Dahei couldn't help laughing when he saw how cowardly these grandsons were. Have you seen that? These idiots are all cowards. HMPH. Then just listen to me, and I will have to choose first when eating from now on. In the stowaway gang's room, Zaku was eating and heard the noise outside. He just smiled sarcastically. They started fighting among themselves so soon. But that's fine. It would be better if we could kill a few more people. Anyway, Zhang Yi doesn't care who lives or dies among these people. He is only responsible for providing ration food. The more people die by then, the easier it will be to solve the food supply problem. Seeing that these cowards did not dare to resist at all, Lu Dahei felt extremely proud, and at the same time he also felt a strong sense of sadness. There were only 3 of them. As long as these people swarmed up, they would stab at most 2 people to death, and they would definitely be finished. But these people are so smart that no one is willing to take risks. In this way, Lu Dahei and the others were treated obediently, and they chose to be the silent lambs without even resisting. Lu Dahei curled his lips disdainfully, then walked over and picked up the 2 largest buckets among the remaining rice buckets. He planned to leave just like that, but he still felt uncomfortable. So he turned around again and spat fiercely into the other food buckets. This move made everyone's hair stand on end and their faces turned green. If you eat this meal, wouldn't it be the same as eating the saliva of Lu Dahei, a stinky fisherman? Regardless of what they thought, Lu Dahei carried 2 large buckets of rice and returned to their cabin with his 2 brothers with their heads held high. But now, the food in the entire bottom cabin was completely insufficient. There were originally 8 cabins in total, but now half of the food was suddenly reduced. But there were still about 100 people who had not eaten. The worst thing is that all the remaining buckets of rice were drunk by Lu Dahei, who deliberately retaliated against them. Hesitation will defeat. Some people were still hesitating whether to eat Lu Dahei's dirty saliva, but some people had already rushed over decisively to grab the food. So what if there is saliva that's also rice? People have to eat to survive, otherwise they will starve to death. Between survival and misophobia, they decisively chose the former. Chapter 846. There was commotion again in the lower cabin. However, the 3 Lu Dahei brothers carried 2 large rice pails back to the cabin with smiles on their faces and returned to their berths. There were other people in the cabin as well. Seeing Lu Dahei and the others monopolizing so much food, some people snorted, expressing their disdain for the bandits. Some people were gulping down their saliva, and their hunger made them want to rush over and grab a bite of food. However, the very sharp toothbrushes in the hands of the 3 brothers were still there, and blood was still dripping from Lu Dahei's toothbrush. This made those people calm down. It is really difficult to snatch food from their hands. Others don't have the courage. Lu Dahei looked at them and knew what these people were thinking. He sneered. Yesterday, he stood up for others, but was beaten so badly that he almost died. At that time, he had never seen these temporary neighbors helping him. Now of course he would not give food to these people. Lu Dahei picked up the toothbrush, put it on his tongue and licked it. Scarlet blood flowed onto the tongue coating and then slid down the tip of his tongue. It looks weird and bloody, making people shudder. Leo Huang, come over and eat something together. Lu Dahei looked at the fisherman Huang Dacheng not far away and took the initiative to say hello to him. After they were beaten by Zagu and others yesterday, it was Huang Dacheng who dragged them back to the cabin. Huang Dacheng saw this and hurriedly walked over. Then I won't be polite. Lu Dahei stuffed Huang Dacheng with a white-faced steamed bun. Huang Dacheng sat on the edge of the bed and started to eat it. Although there were only steamed buns, porridge with shredded green peppers and potatoes for lunch, they tasted more delicious than abalone and lobster. Slowly, the stomachs of other people in the cabin began to growl. They didn't eat well yesterday, and it was even worse today, with half the food missing. Many people in the cabin did not grab anything, which made them miserable. The 2 fishermen next to him were friends of Huang Dacheng, and they were also acquaintances with Lu Dahei and the others. They looked at each other, made a decision, and came to Lu Dahei together. Brother Lu, can you give us some food? We will follow you from now on. Lu Dahei raised his head and looked at the flattering smiles on their faces. Without saying anything, he took out 4 steaming white flour buns from the rice bucket and stuffed 2 into each hand. Then we'll be our own people from now on. Come, let's eat together. The 2 were overjoyed, and after thanking them profusely, they gathered around the rice pail and wolfed down the food. With the 2 peoples present, other people in the cabin began to slowly gather here. Lu Dahei, look, can you give us some food? An entrepreneur in his 60s with grey hair said. Humph. The corner of Lu Dahei's mouth curled up, and he looked at him coldly and said, who do you think you are? You are worthy of eating my food. What can you do? Can you fight? If I ask you to fight, you are there to watch when I'm being beaten. Wait, now I want to come over and ask for food. Are you dreaming? The old entrepreneur trembled, but when he was about to say something more, he saw Lu Dahei's murderous eyes. He was suddenly too frightened to speak anymore and hid behind him in fear. But there are also bold ones. Several young people were very clever. They saw what Huang Dacheng's 2 friends did, so they also came to Lu Dahei. Brother Lu, we want to follow you in the future. These people have been getting along with Lu Dahei for a while, and they know everything about them. Lu Dahei glanced at them. Do you dare to fight? The 2 said decisively. Dare. Humph. Lu Dahei dismissed it. These 2 guys are the 2nd generation of rich people. They are very clever and agree readily. In fact, when it comes to employing people, they don't know what to do. But Lu Dahei didn't expose them. Instead, he threw a steamed bun to each of them and allowed them to come and eat together. In this way, gradually, 7 or 8 adult men in the cabin gathered and joined Lu Dahei's team. This is what Lu Dahei wants. Others can be robbers and steal food with their fists, so he can do the same. Most of the people in the cabin are useless sheep anyway. Wouldn't it be a shame for him to become a sheepdog instead of a wolf? Soon, through this method, the number of people on Lu Dahei increased rapidly. Slowly, 2 big forces formed in the cabin. One is a stowaway gang led by Zaku, and the other is a fisherman gang led by Lu Dahei. They say they are gangs, but they are actually 2 groups of refugees who rack their brains every day for food and drink. As for the others, those who did not join these 2 teams could only pick up some leftovers when eating, and even had nothing to eat. And do the people above know all this? Of course they know. But they didn't care. Zhang Yi just told Lao Shan that, if those people dared to make things worse, they would directly use firepower to clear the ground. So, how can we make a big fuss? Lao Shan asked. Zhang Yi laughed casually and said, it's a big deal, if it makes me sleep. Lao Shan immediately understood. Zhang Yi's words were a joke, but it also meant that he didn't care about the people in the bottom cabin at all. In other words, Lao Shan can make his own judgment, and Zhang Yi doesn't care whether those people are dead or alive. As for Zhu Yang and Su Nuangxi, what are these 2 kind-hearted young ladies, angels comparable to the Virgin Mary, doing? They were being tortured to death by Tommy. Because of their negligence, Tommy suffered from fever and skin infection. After seeking Zhang Yi's opinion, Zhao Kena gave the child medicine. But the only way to eliminate this kind of problem is for Zhu Yang and Su Nuangxi to take care of them more carefully in the future and not make the same mistake again. The 2 of them were educated by Zhao Kena and felt very guilty. But at the same time, I felt tired. Child, what a troublesome thing. Both women made up their minds at almost the same time that they would never have children again. But they can't get rid of the burden of choosing the next step, so they still have to continue taking care of their children. As for the situation in the bottom cabin, they had no time to pay attention to it. They did not know that it was precisely because of what they did that a large number of casualties occurred in the bottom cabin, leading to a horrific tragedy. 3 days passed quickly. On the sea, such a small amount of time is nothing. Zhang Yi just strolls on the boat every day, paying attention to whether there are any signs of sea beasts nearby. The rest of the time he was in the room, studying calligraphy with Zhao Kena. But in the bottom cabin, every minute and every second is fatal suffering for many people. Chapter 847 on 039, TB Impulsive. The establishment of the group led to the rapid deterioration of the living environment in the bottom cabin. Originally, there was just a shortage of food for everyone, and we couldn't have enough to eat every day, but at least we could make ends meet. Later, when they broke up, everyone no longer restrained themselves and began to use force to snatch food. This naturally leads to survival of the fittest. Older people, women with less physical strength, and younger children were the first to be eliminated from this group of people. Some people even went 3 days without getting any food. Gangs of stowaways and fishermen control most of the food. However, there is still a clear line between them. People in stowaway gangs distrust outsiders and stick to their own group. But Lu Dahei actively recruits new members. As long as he thinks that the force is enough and can be used in a fight, he will absorb it into his gang. Slowly, his men began to outnumber the stowaway gang. This also gave Zaku a certain sense of crisis. What he fears most is that in the bottom cabin, the Huaxu people unite. So he changed his style of play and decided to have a try with people like Lu Dahei. On the 4th day, it was time to distribute meals again. Zaku and others only sent a few men over to collect food this time. The leader was Muay Thai fighter Yamat, followed by 2 young guys. People in other cabins looked at them through the cracks in the doors. Some people have been hungry for several days, their faces are haggard, their skin is yellow, and even their eyes are glowing green. They stared at these 3 people, fearful, but also had an inexplicable emotion surging. But when the 2 came to the food, they did not take away the best 2 buckets of food as before. Yamat spoke very poor Britannia and asked his 2 younger brothers to guard the food and not allow anyone to come near. Then he walked to the cabin where the fisherman gang was. The people from the fisherman's gang blocked the door and stared at him unkindly. Yamad shouted, call your boss to come out. Mr. Zaku wants to see him. In the room. After Lu Dahei heard this, a cold smile appeared on his lips. Zhang Yi looked unkind and said, you can see me, just as soon as you say. Lu Dahei stopped him. Wrong. Don't always be so impulsive. He sat on the bed, looked at Yamad, suddenly smiled and said, tell Mr. Zaku that I will be there later. Then hurry up. After Yamad finished speaking, he turned around and left, but his two younger brothers guarded the food and did not allow anyone to approach. This attitude suddenly made many people anxious. What do they mean? They won't let us eat? This is a show of authority. Are they really going to push everyone to the edge? Even the most cowardly person will become angry out of despair in the face of life and death. Lu Dahei took out the sharpened toothbrush from under the bed and then secretly stuffed it into his sleeve. Others from the fisherman's gang gathered around. Brother Dahei, that Zaku must have bad intentions. You can't go there. Yes, at worst, we'll have to fight with them. Lu Dahei did not speak. How could he still not know the fighting power of the people around him? They screamed loudly, but when the fight actually started, most of them would be so frightened that they would kneel down and beg for mercy. Zaku is a true gang member, and he has several very capable characters under his command. If we go head to head, just relying on these few of them will definitely not be enough. It's okay. I'll go talk to him and see what he wants. Lu Dahei walked out of the crowd, and others naturally followed him. Now that Lu Dahei is here, they can gather together and have a full meal. If something happens to Lu Dahei, they may have to return to their previous state of not having enough to eat. So naturally, they have to follow Lu Dahei now, not wanting anything to happen to him. A large group of people came to the cabin of the stowaway gang. When the stowaways saw this scene, they immediately blocked the door. Mr. Zaku said that only Lu Dahei would be allowed to come in alone. When Zhang Yi and others heard this, they immediately became anxious. If Lu Dahei goes in, he will be alone in front of more than 20 people in the stowaway gang. It only takes a moment to kill him. This can't be done. What are your intentions? Zhang Yi pointed at that person and yelled angrily. Lu Dahei raised his hand disapprovingly. Hey, it's okay. Since Mr. Zaku wants to see me, I'll just go there alone. Don't worry, they won't touch me. Deep in Lu Dahei's eyes, there was a dark tide surging. Lu Dahei has said this, so it is naturally not easy for others to stop him. The gatekeeper opened the door a crack and let Lu Dahei walk in alone. Then the door closed with a click. As soon as Lu Dahei entered the door, before he could see clearly what was going on inside, someone kicked his legs hard. The whole person fell to his knees with a pop sound. Two big hands came over, grabbed his hair, cut his hands behind his back, and pinned him to the ground. Lu Dahei's nose bled from hitting the ground so hard. But he struggled and shouted, you can't kill me, you can't kill me. Mr. Zaku, if you make things worse, you won't get any good results. Are you really not afraid of those people above? Don't forget that you came here smuggled in. He is from the Huaxu country like us. If he kills us, it will cause a big problem. Guess whether he will turn toward you or us. In the cabin, Zaku was sitting on a bench, surrounded by his younger brothers. He looked down coldly at the tan fisherman in front of him, as indifferently as a lion staring at its prey. Zaku stood up from the stool, then took off the belt on his trousers, walked up to Lu Dahei, and tied a knot around his neck with the belt. Then the belt tightened, dragging him along the ground. Lu Dahei soon fell into the dilemma of suffocation, and his facial expression turned red due to congestion, ferocious and terrifying. No, do not want. Zaku turned a deaf ear and dragged him back and forth on the ground for a long time. Only when Lu Dahei was about to die finally did he let go. Cough, cough, cough. Lu Dahei rolled his eyes and coughed desperately. Zaku stared at him and said coldly, you guy, you have been in the limelight recently. With so many people around you, are you planning to go against me? Zaku's expression seemed to be a smile, but not a smile. He looked at Lu Dahei with murderous intent. If it weren't for Lu Dahei mentioning Zhang Yi and others, he would really have planned to kill this thorn today. Prevent your gang from being destroyed by this guy in the future. Cough, cough, cough. We just want to live. Mr. Zaku, the food is completely enough for the two of us to survive. I can have enough to eat every day now, so there is no need to go against you. No matter who it is, maintaining the status quo is the best thing to do. Even if you kill me, someone else will show up. Haha, so it's useless for you to kill me. On the contrary, keeping me and cooperating with you will be the most beneficial to you. Chapter 848 Heartfire. Zagu narrowed his eyes, hesitating whether to kill Lu Dahei or not. But as Lu Dahei said, now, they are the bosses in this bottom cabin, and have enough food. There is no need to take unnecessary risks. But once the killing started, it attracted the attention of the superiors. Even the captain named Zhang doesn't care about the life and death of the people at the bottom. But in the final analysis, he has a closer relationship with these Huaxu people. If there was a conflict between the two gangs, the Stowaway gang killed the Huaxu people. Even if it is just due to human considerations, it is almost self-evident who he will turn to. When people have nothing, they can have nothing to worry about. But after eating a full meal, it is not so easy to risk one's life. Zagu stared at Lu Dahei. Cooperation? It's interesting. Come and tell me how you plan to cooperate? Lu Dahei took a few deep breaths with difficulty to calm himself down. From now on, our two groups will be in charge of the food distribution in this bottom cabin. You have priority, and we will follow. As long as we unite together, others will not be able to make any waves. Then everyone can eat and drink well. Isn't it better than being wary of each other now? In order to dispel Zagu's doubts, Lu Dahei continued, we are all here for a bite to eat. Who wants to risk his life? Zagu stared into Lu Dahei's eyes. Silence. He did not respond to Lu Dahei's proposal. This kind of silence brings great pressure to people. Lu Dahei's heart was also beating fast. But he must pass this level. After a while, the cabin door was opened, and Lu Dahei walked out of the room with a calm expression. Zhang Yi, Yu Gang and others quickly gathered around, and saw Lu Dahei had injuries on his face, and quickly asked him if he was okay. I'm fine. This level is over. Everyone, go back. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief at this time. In other cabins, those watching the excitement felt extremely disappointed. They were all eager to let Lu Dahei and his group fight to the death with the stowaways. It would be best if they all died. In this way, the people who bullied them will disappear, and there will be enough food. When Lu Dahei passed by other cabins, he could naturally see the expressions of those people. He could guess what these people were thinking, and he couldn't help but have a sarcastic sneer on his lips. After returning, Lu Dahei said to Zhang Yi and Yu Gang, I knew that those people did not dare to touch me. They are not short of food and drink now, and what they are most afraid of is that they will die. I can see that Captain Zhang has his principles. As long as he doesn't seek death, he will not interfere with our affairs. But if anyone touches his bottom line and causes him trouble, he will kill us like a chicken. Same. Zagu doesn't have the guts to kill people here. One person said happily, it's great now. As long as we live in harmony with those stowaways, we won't have to worry about food and drink. Lu Dahei glanced at him coldly and said nothing. He, Zhang Yi, and Yu Gang had an unusual taste in their eyes. Keeping things quiet is not their way of doing things. They were beaten up by Zaku and others that day and almost beat them to death. They would never forget this grudge. They have spent their whole lives killing fish at sea, and their hearts have long been colder than the knives used to kill them. In the next 2 days, the relationship between the stowaways and the fisherman gang was very harmonious as promised. The stowaways were given first priority in picking out the food, while the fisherman gang just took 2 portions later. But this makes food even more scarce for the already hungry passengers in other cabins. God knows how they survived these 2 days. Some even didn't eat a grain of rice for 3 days. The struggle and despair make some people unable to bear it anymore. Some people suppressed the fear in their hearts and ran to Lu Dahei, begging him to give them some food. Boss Lu, we didn't help you in the past because we had no conscience. We already know that we were wrong, so just be noble and give us a way to survive. A group of people gathered outside Lu Dahei and their cabin, kneeling on the ground and begging bitterly. Lu Dahei sneered and asked, why don't you go beg those stowaways instead of coming here to beg me? Several people looked at each other and said, we are compatriots, and they are outsiders. Lu Dahei smiled, so compatriots are easier to bully, right? He suddenly pointed at those people and his expression changed. You are just a bunch of cowards. If you don't have the guts to be aggressive with them, just kneel down and beg me to have mercy on you. But it's too late. I don't sympathize with you at all. Get the hell out of here. Lu Dahei gave the order, and a group of thugs immediately came over to chase him away. The group of people cried for their fathers and mothers because they didn't have enough to eat. They were beaten very miserably, and their blood flowed all over the floor. When the people in other cabins saw this, they were all furious. They hated Lu Dahei very much. In contrast, it was Zaku and others who were the instigators, and they did not hate it so much. Because outsiders bully them, they think it is natural. But Lu Dahei was from Huaxu country like them, so they thought Lu Dahei was a scumbag and a beast. These people have probably forgotten that when they were in the country, most of the miscellaneous people they encountered were their own compatriots, and most of the wealth in their own hands was obtained by squeezing and deceiving their compatriots. It is simply ridiculous to think about blood ties now. This side of the stowaway cabin. When Zaku saw Lu Dahei letting people beat his compatriots, a sarcastic smile appeared on his lips. They just like to fight in the nest. Let's fight. Let's fight. The deeper the conflict between Lu Dahei and the people in other cabins, the more at ease Zaku felt. In this way, the fisherman gang poses much less threat to them. That night, Lu Dahei's cabin was pitch black, with some light shining through the portholes, making it difficult to see the real person. Just vaguely, there were many people gathering in the cabin. In the middle of several beds, there were 7 or 8 people sitting on the ground. These people are representatives from each cabin. The 3 brothers Lu Dahei were also sitting in the middle. Lu Dahei glanced at the face that everyone could not see clearly, and a pair of sinister eyes exuded a frightening murderous aura. How are your cabins now? Lu Dahei's voice was extremely low. But after he asked this question, the others couldn't bear it anymore and began to complain. Brother Lu, the people in our cabin are starving to death. There are a few women who are just one step away from the Lord of Hell. If this continues, at least half of the people in this cabin will die. We really can't hold on any longer. Otherwise we wouldn't have come to beg you. We also know that what we did was unethical. Please give me a way to survive. After Lu Dahei heard what they said, he said coldly, I'm not the one who doesn't give you a way to live. Have you forgotten who is the reason why we don't have enough to eat? Chapter 849, The Edge of Death. Lu Dahei's words reminded everyone. At first, Zhang Yi provided them with enough food. It was because Zhu Yunk secretly let in more than 20 illegal immigrants that everyone could not eat enough. It was also Zaku's group who took the lead in using violence to occupy a large amount of food. Although Lu Dahei is hated, he is not the culprit. You mean, those people? But they are so powerful that we don't dare to provoke them. A bald man sighed helplessly. Lu Dahei sneered, if you can't offend them, then just wait until you starve to death. A young man next to him lowered his voice angrily, I can't live any longer, and I'm still afraid of a bird. If they hadn't taken over our food, everyone would have been able to live well. Some people are timid, but it's not good. If things get serious, people will die. Besides, there are people from above taking care of it, so I'm afraid something will happen. It's better to be more prudent. It's better to do less than to do more. Someone else cursed, how can I bear it now? If I bear it any longer, my life will be gone. Lu Dahei didn't say a word, just watched them talking. Finally, someone thought of Lu Dahei. Brother Lu, can you help us come up with an idea? You are the most capable. As long as you can keep us alive, we will listen to whatever you say. Yes, we listen to Brother Lu. What Lu Dahei was waiting for was their words. He glanced at everyone and said slowly, there is no way to resolve this matter peacefully. Everyone knows in their hearts that if there are too many monks and too little food, someone will definitely starve to death. If you want to live, you have to make it impossible for them to live. He leaned forward slightly so that he could see the expressions on everyone's faces more carefully. At least we are compatriots, and we still have brotherhood. But those people won't be polite to you. As if I can still discuss it with you now. Do you dare to go to Zaku? A group of people looked at each other. How could they have the courage? A bold man said gloomily, you mean, give them all. He gestured with his hand on his neck. Everyone else's heartbeats were beating much faster. Kill. This kind of thing is not unfamiliar to them, and many of them have blood on their hands. This is a common occurrence on Yanliu Island. But now they are on the Jinfeng, and they have many concerns in their hearts. If things get serious, the people above won't let us live. Lu Dahei raised the corner of his mouth. There is a saying that you should not blame the crowd. If it is one person or two people, they will throw us into the sea. But what if we unite and do it together? This way, even if the people above want to take action, they will still have concerns. Lu Dahei's words were just to appease everyone and pull them into the water together. He is very courageous, and he must avenge Zaku for beating him. Therefore, even if he has to risk being killed by Zhang Yi, he will do this. You decide whether to do it or not. Lu Dahei crossed his arms and waited for the others' answers. His old spirit was there, looking indifferent. Anyway, even if this group of people chickens out, he still has the say in food. On the contrary, the people in other cabins were starving to death and they couldn't afford to wait. A bunch of people looked at me, and I looked at you, and finally someone took the lead to express his stance. Fuck it. A man patted his thigh and said fiercely, I don't want to live a day like this in fear. There is still a long way to go back. We can't always be shy. The more we tolerate, the less we will have enough to eat. They have food and drink every day. The longer we delay, the more we will suffer. Is it possible that we really have to put our lives at the mercy of others? His words woke up many people. Nowadays, Zagu and others are still wary, so they only took away 2 buckets of food. But if things go on like this, they will definitely grab more and more. They understand the greed of human nature better than anyone else, and everyone here is smart. Of course, when thinking about this issue, everyone subconsciously glanced at Lu Dahei. Zaku is this kind of person, so why not Lu Dahei? But so far, Zaku is the person they have the most hope of dealing with, because they can win over Lu Dahei to deal with Zaku. And because of position issues, they were unable to win over Zaku to deal with Lu Dahei. Then do it. Anyway, if you continue to delay, you will die. A group of people got bloody and decided to fight the stowaway gang. Brother Lu, when shall we take action? The main force is naturally the fisherman gang headed by Lu Dahei. Lu Dahei raised his eyelids and said, tomorrow, Sunday, is the day to eat meat. Zagu will definitely bring people over to protect the food. You go back and prepare whoever you want. Wait until I give the signal, and everyone will come together. Speaking of this, Lu Dahei's eyes suddenly turned sinister. When the time comes, whoever dares to leak the news will be regarded as a traitor, or he will be careless when fighting. Lu Dahei, will stab him to death before I die. Lu Dahei said, raising the toothbrush in his hand that was polished every day. There was still black blood on it, which made people feel fearful. No, we are not that kind of people. Whoever doesn't fall in love with you then will be your grandson. Yes, if anyone dares to be a traitor or hide to pick fruits, I will be the first to let him go. After the meeting, everyone quietly returned to their cabins. In the darkness, they woke up the people in the cabin one by one and informed them of tomorrow's actions. Quietly, don't make any noise. A fight is about to begin. But how? I can't even find a stick here. Wrap your hands with clothes and twist your socks into a rope. When the time comes, you will kill me. Use any means you can to kill. At night, in the thick darkness, each cabin began to use their imagination to create all kinds of weapons that could be used to kill people. Lu Dahei was leaning against the wall, holding his toothbrush in his hand, his eyes open, and not sleepy at all. He huddled himself in the corner. This position was very safe. Even if he suddenly got into a fight with someone, he could guarantee that he would not be attacked from behind. He fought many times and killed people for food on Yanliu Island. But essentially, he doesn't think he's a bad person. He was just trying to live, and there was nothing wrong with him. From the heart, if he can live a stable life, he is also willing to help others to stand out. This is the innate narrow sense of Ludang people. He hates evil as much as he hates it, and kills with pleasure. He even experienced the passion and emotion of his ancestors. The night was as dark as ink, and he was like a quiet bat, waiting quietly in the darkness. Chapter 850. One bet, at 1. The night passed, and the day came. The morning light on the sea was faint, and not very bright. The cabin on the bottom was still dim, but I could barely see. Zhang Yi and Zhao Ke finished breakfast, and then they went for a walk on the deck. It had been more than 10 days since the voyage, and everything was calm, but Zhang Yi's intuition told him that the fin dragon must be there. There is always the calm before the storm. The terrifying and huge deep sea monster was smart and did not attack rashly. Maybe it's waiting for the right opportunity. For example, a snowstorm is coming. This is a little troublesome for Zhang Yi. However, he has full confidence in his own strength. In a head-to-head confrontation, the fin dragon is no match for him. Otherwise, how can he be called the top master in the Jiangnan region? Lao Shan came over with his people and greeted Zhang Yi. Mr. Zhang, morning. Zhang Yi glanced at Lao Shan and said with a smile, how are you on the ship lately? Is there anything unusual going on? Lao Shan thought for a while and shook his head. They are all quite honest, that is, the few foreigners in the Yanliu group, who often chatter. It doesn't matter. Once they get ashore, send them to your base and let them step on the generator. Zhang Yi said lightly. Lao Shan smiled and nodded. Yes. Oh, by the way, have someone prepare the mop. We need to clean the cabin thoroughly today. Lao Shan was stunned for a moment. We clean it every day, and the cabin is not dirty. A meaningful smile appeared on Zhang Yi's lips. He lay on the railing and looked at the end of the sea and sky in the distance. It will be useful. Lao Shan didn't know what Zhang Yi wanted to do, but he did as he was told. Zhang Yi and Zhao Ke circled the boat and planned to go back. By the way, how is the baby Zhu Young raised recently? Zhang Yi asked casually. When Zhao Ke heard this, she burst out laughing. She shook her head helplessly. Those two, I really regret it and want to die now. They are all the eldest ladies of official families. They are used to being pampered and pampered. Others have always taken care of them. How can they take care of others? Not to mention the two eldest ladies. Even an ordinary person would have a headache with a 1-year-old child like that. The last time I went to see a doctor for the kid named Tommy, 2 people taking care of him were terrible. Sunuangxi washes his diapers while crying. Zhang Yi had a happy expression on his face. Although he is a man, he still likes to hear this kind of gossip occasionally. It is really interesting. Respect her fate and give up the complex of helping others. Let's wait and see. It will be at least a month and a half before we go back. Guess how long they can persist. Zhao Ke understood that Zhang Yi would not help the two of them, nor will I allow others to help. She thought about it and sighed helplessly. I think it will take another half a month at most. They will collapse. Zhang Yi smiled and said, it won't take that long. I bet they will collapse within a week at most. Zhao Ke's eyes widened. No way. I don't think they have reached that level yet. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. You will naturally know when the time comes. He turned to look at Zhao Ke and said playfully, how about we make a bet? Let's see who can guess more accurately. Zhao Ke's big and smart eyes rolled around, and she said confidently, I still stick to my opinion. What are you betting on? Can you tell me? Zhang Yi chuckled twice. If I win, you will. He leaned into Zhao Ke's ear and said something. Zhao Ke's eyes widened. That kind of thing is impossible, right? You have to try everything, and you have to believe in your potential. Zhao Ke analyzed it in his mind and felt that he had a greater chance of winning. Just bet, but if I win, you get. The specific bet between the two is revealed in the book. In short, the two of them settled on it. On the way back, they bumped into Zhu Young and Sunuangxi, who looked haggard. The two of them look less refined now than before. You know, when you come, no matter how cold the weather is, Zhu Young must insist on wearing light makeup every day to maintain his image and temperament. But recently, in order to take care of the child, they couldn't sleep well all night long. So he always looks like he is mentally exhausted. Not to mention makeup. I'm afraid I haven't even changed my underwear for a long time. But Fatty Zhu would probably be more excited if he were here. Good morning, Miss Zhu, Miss Su. Zhao Ke smiled and raised her hand to greet them. The two of them responded politely when they saw Zhao Ke, but when they looked at Zhang Yi, they were a little unhappy. As the captain, Zhang Yi can help them solve all the current problems with just a little help. But Zhang Yi deliberately didn't help them, as if watching a good show. Can the two eldest ladies give him a good look? Zhang Yi didn't care either. Seeing them finishing their meal and going back to their rooms to eat, he suddenly asked, By the way, have you visited the lower cabin recently? Zhu Yang and Sunu Anxi was slightly startled. There was a hint of confusion in their eyes. When had Zhang Yi ever cared about other people's affairs? Zhu Yang frowned slightly, and then she remembered that there was something else. The last time they kindly went to deliver food, they were completely frightened by the crazy hungry people. From then on, the two of them never dared to show their love again. And because of Tommy's illness, they had no time to take care of him. However, I think those people wouldn't starve to death, so it shouldn't be a big problem. I haven't been there in the past few days. What's wrong? Is there any problem? Zhu Yang asked curiously. Zhang Yi spread his hands. It's okay. Speaking of which, this matter has nothing to do with me. After all, you are the one who brought him on board. Looking at how leisurely you are, you must have solved their food problem. Don't worry, I'm too talkative. Zhu Yang rolled his eyes at Zhang Yi. If you don't help me, you'll be mocking me here. Mr. Zhang, can't you be more generous? Zhang Yi raised his hands in surrender and said with a smile, okay, I shouldn't ask. After he finished speaking, he took Zhao Ke and left. Zhu Yang looked at his back, but vaguely felt that something was wrong. Could it be that something happened to them? Zhu Yang went to the crew and asked about the situation below. The crew member shrugged. What can happen to them? They are just fighting for a bite to eat. Is there anyone dead? Zhu Yang was a little worried. No one should be dead. The crew member replied casually. If a person is dead, he will definitely not be able to hide it in such a closed environment. The smell was too obvious. Zhu Yang felt relieved and said, well, that's good. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.